The following program contains adult language and juvenile conversations. Listener discretion is advised.
Woo! It's getting crazy out there. The weather's starting to spruce up, though. It's starting to finally warm up, and everything's looking okay visually, although we're still housing ourselves. It's a big pain in the ass. But we got a good friend with us joining us tonight. It's going to be awesome. You'll know who he is in just a moment. And we're going to be reviewing a highly anticipated movie from a good number of the crew here. So, welcome to Trick or Treat Radio.
Welcome all you little zombies. You're listening to Trick or Treat Radio, starring the Deadites.
Welcome to episode 407 of Trick or Treat Radio. Trick or Treat Radio is the world's most dangerous podcast and is recorded in front of an undead studio audience here at Castle Wolfenstein, also at the Lair of Lost Swag within the Raven Chateau, also broadcasting from Casa de Zero and also the Lair of the Gods. We are now live once again from 4 different locations, soon to be 5. We'll bring our guests in just a moment here. We discuss at least one film a week. We may argue, we make fun of each other, and also we hope to make you laugh. And some hosts might even die trying. Isn't that right, Monster Zero?
That's exactly true. It might even happen tonight. Who knows? The night's young.
Yes, exactly. So quickly off the top here, we are going to be talking about the film The Lodge a little bit later on, but first, right off the bat here, we're bringing in a heavy hitter, and we are going to be joined right now by New York Times best-selling author and old friend of the show. We've had him on several times. It's been a little bit here, but we are now also joined by author extraordinaire and now new podcaster Grady Hendricks.
Hey y'all! I know I'm like edging into your turf. Someone's gonna get cut.
Yeah, because it's there's not many of us out there, not many podcasters, so you're definitely infringing on our territory here, Grady.
No one's doing this, right? I'm on the cutting edge.
Yeah, exactly. I think I
feel like my mom has a podcast.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I think you're joining after my grandmother has her podcast, so
What episode are you guys on?
This is 407.
Yeah, see, I'm on 1, so there we go. Watch out.
Just 407 weeks, you'll catch up.
Exactly.
No, it's but we appreciate you coming on. It's an honor to have you back on again. Obviously, we do have the podcast. I want to talk about that a little bit later. But first and foremost, you are now is this a new thing that you're now a New York Times bestselling author? Is that because of the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires?
It is. I've been on like different regional and independent bestseller lists before, but this is the first time I've cracked the Times, which it feels good. It's also they have a weird algorithm for how they do their list, and they kind of hide how they do it. So it's always a bit of sort of black magic on who's on there and who's not. It may not strictly be based on sales. Just always hard to figure it out. So you appear or disappear at the Times' pleasure.
Well, at least you're appearing for now, and I mean, you always have that. That's you always have that next to your name now. Or preceding
They
your name.
can't take it away.
Right. You're on there once and that's it. So now we have New York Times bestselling author Grady Hendricks. And I think the cost has gone up. So we'll look for that invoice in the mail. It'll be a little bit more this time than the last few times, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to give you guys a friends and family discount. So
okay, good.
It shouldn't be too bad.
Right.
All right.
This thing's highly lucrative for y'all, too. So you can handle it.
Yes, very lucrative. But
that's one thing I've learned about podcasts is I start doing one. Man, they make a lot of money. Holy cow, it's coming in.
Look at all.
I'm gonna have to hire someone to count it.
Yeah, look at all the toys we have in the background here. That's all the money we make from podcasting. Yeah. So, well, let's talk about the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. It's a mouthful. It took me a couple times to be able to say it all the way through. But just for folks who may not have read the book, give us a little bit of an elevator pitch.
Sure. I mean, it's a book with an incredibly long title, which I think, you kind of covered. I agree. It's about 1988 in Charleston, South Carolina, where I grew up. So this is a few years later in 93. None of the same characters recur, but it's the same neighborhood, the same world. And it's about a book club of women who read true crime. Most of them are housewives and moms, and they come to believe that their new neighbor is either a serial killer or a vampire, and then a lot of poor decision making ensues.
I haven't had a chance to read this one yet, so I'm unfortunately can't speak to the quality of it. But I mean, the New York Times bestseller, obviously people are digging it. So
not just anyone reads the New York Times. It's like that's some classy people reading this book.
Exactly. So it sounds great, and clearly, I mean, you're a fan of genre fiction. I mean, not just cinema, but fiction. I mean, it's very much present in pretty much all of your books, and also, I mean, Paperbacks from Hell, which we've talked with you extensively about, that really brought a lot of those sort of novelizations to the forefront. I know a lot of people that just love tracking them down and trying to find all the ones that they can possibly find. So I think a lot of those...
So sorry.
Yeah.
It becomes... You can see behind me these boxes full of paperbacks. I'm like, just right on the stack next to me, there's Stage Fright, the skeleton with the guitar. These things will eat your life. They will run you out of your house and home. They will turn your loved ones against you once you start buying them.
Yes, I have a couple friends who are very much into them, and we all hung out. Actually, funny enough, in I guess it was in Virginia. It wasn't South Carolina, but it was in Virginia, and so we went to a bunch of used bookstores just looking for them. They couldn't get enough, and one of the bookstores actually had a Paperbacks from Hell section where they put
really?
Yeah. So that's
great.
They put a bunch of them there and had like little write-ups of all of them. So yeah, it's you've essentially, well, I mean, you didn't create the genre, but you put the book out that has sort of revitalized that.
I got to name it.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, which is really nice. One of the things that's been really nice about this is I've been working with Valancourt, actually, who's a small publisher, to bring some of these back into print with like the original cover art and doing interviews with the authors so we can write intros for them and everything. And, that's been really, really nice. Just a lot of these artists who did these covers, they had their initials obscured or their names cropped out of these covers and didn't get credit in the book. So it's nice to sort of let people know, hey, that's Tom Hallman, that's that's the Gerbers, that's Lisa Falkenstern. Like, to associate a name with the covers. And also, it's been really nice to bring some of these authors back into print, like Elizabeth Engstrom, who did When Darkness Loves Us, that we reprinted, and Black Ambrosia, her vampire book. Those were her two horror novels, and they were the only two books in her sort of bibliography that had fallen out of print. And she's getting royalty checks from them now, and it's kind of psyched about that. And, a lot of these authors had just vanished, and it's been really, really nice to sort of, and I think especially for their families and for them to see them get some attention.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's such a cool thing to just shine a light on that, and it was kind of like a forgotten dark corner of fiction. So it's cool that you were able to shine a light on that.
Oh yeah, no, and it's been really gratifying. I mean, the having the book do well and everything's nice, but like honestly, the thing I've liked the most is seeing the artists and the authors get that attention again.
Yeah, no, that's really great. Obviously, we've talked about Paperbacks from Hell quite a bit, so I didn't want to focus too much on that, but
sure.
Kind of want to dive back into the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. I'll get it right one of these times. And what was
the Southern Vampire's Guide to Slaying Book Clubs? Yes,
I might eventually say that. So, but what was the sort of the genesis for the idea of doing this?
Well, I've wanted to do this book for a really, really long time. My mom's book club, I think, just celebrated their 40th anniversary. So they've been around almost as long as I've been alive. And I really hated them when I was a kid. And, they were just a bunch of loud women who would invade our house. And I wasn't allowed to eat their snacks or come downstairs when they were there. And when I got older, I sort of got to know a lot of them as human beings and people, not just so and so's mom or like such and such who drives carpool. And I really grew to have a lot of respect for them. I mean, they really went through a lot of stuff in their lives that they handled with a lot of grace and a lot of discretion and stuff I wasn't aware of when I was a kid, because you don't know what's going on in your parents' life when you're a kid. And so I really wanted to write a book about these women and just sort of, kind of give them this hero moment. And the problem was, I've been wanting to write this book for a really long time. And for a while, I needed to get the chops to do it. It's a bigger book than I've done in the past. It's a lot more characters. It's a lot more sort of I had a lot more to get right. Like, I don't have kids, so it's all about parents. So I had to talk to a lot of parents and spend a lot of time doing that. And then the other thing is I had to convince my publisher to publish it. I mean, they really were not thrilled about a vampire book. And, they're kind of like, vampires, really? And so I actually wanted to write this book before We Sold Our Souls, and they just weren't enthusiastic. So I did We Sold Our Souls with the understanding that I'd be doing this one after it. And even then, I sort of had to really, it was only because my editor was sort of stepping down. He was like, all right, go for it. If it's a mess, it's not going to be on my watch. And so, yeah, and it took a little longer than a lot of my other books. I'm a sort of book a year writer, and this was like a year and a half to get it right. So, it was tough, but everything that's worth doing is hard.
Yeah, it's, and it sounds like, I think last time we talked to you, I think they were a little uncertain about Sold Our Souls as well. I think there took some convincing, if I recall correctly. So it's interesting. Is it because they felt that vampires are just kind of passé at this point? Is that sort of the impression you got?
Well, the vampire thing, yeah, definitely the vampire thing. This feeling that vampires are passé. What can you do? Everyone's just going to laugh at a vampire. I mean, they mostly appear in paranormal romances now, right? Or urban fantasy. As sort of dudes with good abs and they're hot in bed and all that. And so not to say my vampire doesn't do sit-ups and isn't really good in bed, but he does other things too. But also, I think every publisher, like, it's very, like, especially with the stuff I write, not because what I write is so amazing, but it's very hard to convey what I see inside my head into something coherent a publisher can kind of wrap their head around. And some of that's also, I don't even know where it's going until I've at least written the book once and kind of see, okay, this is roughly the size and scope of what I'm doing. And with this book, I really took a couple of drafts to get in the ballpark. And I mean, even my agent was really, the first draft, he was like, I don't know what we're going to do. Let's maybe rethink this book. So, it's just very, very hard for people to see what you've got until you've got it, and I get it. It's tough. And it's a way I don't like selling books on spec, like based on a pitch or a line or something, because I'd rather someone see the finished product. Because like when I said to my publisher a heavy metal horror novel like We Sold Our Souls, I think they really envisioned, I mean, and understandably, sort of like Scooby-Doo meets This Is Spinal Tap, with like demons and like chicks in chainmail bikinis riding like winged serpents and stuff with flaming swords. And I mean, that sounds great to me. And I gave them this sort of like dark, constipated, paranoid conspiracy book about middle-aged people having life crises and disgusting bugs like eating goop out of people's mouths. I mean, I if I was them, I would have been really like, really? So yeah, I mean, I get it. It's tough. It's one of those reasons that I feel like studio filmmaking often gives this idea that like, oh, no one making these studio movies knows what they're doing. And then these indie movies, like, look at them. They've got this real point of view. But a lot of indie movies or smaller films, they're finished before they find a buyer. And with a lot of big studio films, those things come together by committee, and the executives who greenlight it based on a pitch or a log line, what they see in their head may not be what the director sees in their head. So, I get it. I get why those have so many stops and starts. If you look at my work process on any of my books, it's a mess. I mean, I should be fired.
Yeah, it is interesting because like on when you pitch something, it must be difficult to kind of convey the heart of the story. It's you're giving all these sort of bullet points, but it must be difficult to convey that. And in a sense of what I know about the book, it sounds like it's almost the polar opposite of what's going on in pop culture, because we have like Stranger Things, and it's all these kids. And in this, you have a book club of older folks,
Yeah, and that was one thing my publisher was really worried about, because Quirk, my publisher, they do a lot of pop culture books and things like that. And so they were really worried about selling to an audience of middle-aged women. Not there's anything wrong with middle-aged women, but just that's not an audience they know how to reach, and people are comfortable doing what they know how to do, understandably. But it's also funny because I feel like one thing with pitches that's so weird is pitches require so much plot. Like, it's like, and then this happens, and then you wouldn't believe it, but he rips off his mask and he's really a talking chihuahua. And then the chihuahua rips off a mask and it's actually Satan. Like just a pitch, you just have to keep something happening or some big change every couple of minutes. And often with the book, I've discovered that I've got too much story, too much plot, and I really have to boil it down, because what readers want is to be really immersed in a character. So when those changes hit, you've got to really give it the time and the space to unpack that emotional stuff, or it's just going to feel very facile and very on the surface. So I often find I'll pitch something to my publisher and then start writing it, and the first draft will just be like exhausting. Say this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens, and it really takes me a draft or two to calm the hell down, and just sort of like write a book instead of trying to like do a pitch in book form.
Yeah, I imagine that kind of might even stifle the creative process a little bit to try to hit those sort of finish lines along the way. But we do have
and it's funny. Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
No, you can comment on that.
No, I was just gonna say it's also weird because like I'm doing a lot of screenplay work right now, and a lot of people are like, "Well, just give me a pitch and then we'll like get going." And I always feel like we got to get these characters. Like, give me 3 months to come up with something to pitch you, because anything I give you right now, I'm going to be pulling out my ass, and then we all have to live with it for a year or two.
Yeah, for sure. I do want to actually comment on or talk about some of the film stuff, but before I do that, we did get some questions in email. So this is from our good buddy El Goro, who is also a podcaster. Once again, another person competing for space in that field for us. And he's actually one of the friends that who I went to go look for some paperbacks from hell. And so, anyways, he's a big fan.
Nice.
And I'll just read you sort of his comment first, and then I'll just kind of field some of his questions. But he said, "Thank you for your time, sir. As soon as the Great Quarantine began, I immediately went out and purchased all of your books that I was missing from my library. Between those and Valancourt's Paperbacks from Hell series, I've managed to maintain some semblance of sanity and isolation. So thank you for that." And
my pleasure. Thank you.
And so he does have a question about the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. And he says, with the book, you brought us Patricia Campbell, another excellently realized female character in a growing coterie. He's too smart for me, man. That includes Amy Porter in Horror Store, Abby Rivers in My Best Friend's Exorcism, and my personal favorite, Chris Pulaski in We Sold Our Souls. What is it about writing women that appeals to you as an author?
Yeah, clearly I hate men and myself. I don't know. I feel like part of it is that I have to have characters who feel different from me. Like if I'm just writing a dude, then he's just going to become a stand-in for me. And I need that arm's length between the character and I. And one easy way to do that is to have them be, the opposite gender. And then the other thing is, I feel like I just, I have 3 older sisters. I was kind of raised, my mom and my dad got divorced when I was 13. So I lived with my mom mostly. I've been married since I was like 20 years old. Like, I don't know, I've just always been around women, and I've always sort of been really interested in how they see the world. And I often feel like, that at least in the 90s, the women I saw, they had to sort of process everything a lot more than the dudes. Like, the dudes were like me. We didn't have to, I didn't have to think a whole lot. Like I could just sort of be okay. But women, it was like every day. It was like, I'm gonna walk to my car in the parking lot and might get murdered on the way. You know, it was this real awareness of navigating relationships and things. So it's a fun thing to write, you know. And you know, with We Sold Our Souls, it was really I wanted a main character who wasn't just someone who everyone thought was worthless because she'd been like in a heavy metal band, because people just tend to look down on heavy metal a lot. Yeah. And she wasn't just someone who had no value because like she'd been in a band and then quit and didn't really have any other skills. And not because she was middle-aged, but also like because she's a woman. And that was written right after the last election. And I kind of felt like a lot of women I knew felt like they'd just been told they had no value. You know, they took Trump's election really in a personal way. And I think that surprised a lot of people I knew how personal that felt. So it just seemed to make a lot of sense to write a female character.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I can certainly see that. And a lot of times authors will say, oh, well, you know, I always put a piece of myself in it so I can relate to it. But it seems like, I mean, obviously I'm sure that is true, but it almost seems like it's slightly the opposite, where you can kind of think in a different way, kind of get outside of your own brain to sort of make the character work.
Yeah, and also that really helps me, like when I'm writing about like My Best Friend's Exorcism and Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires, is it's set in the neighborhood where I grew up, around the times I grew up. So it's really nice for me to filter what that was like through someone else's perception. Like, you know, I'd never really thought that like what seemed like a really cozy, lovely neighborhood to me as a 9, 10, 11, 12, 13-year-old boy was a really different place to my mom, who is having to navigate it as an adult.
Yeah, and that actually kind of leads into another question that El Goro asked here. He says, you know, talking about some of your books are set in your home state of South Carolina, and he says that the setting of Horror Store was moved to just outside Cleveland, Ohio, about 10 miles from where I'm typing these words. Why did you opt to place the Haunted Orsk store there?
Oh, because I had just gone to a couple of back-to-back weddings in Cleveland, and this was about 2013, 2014, maybe. I think 2013. And I was really blown away by how desolate Cleveland was at that point. Like, my wife and I were staying at this hotel downtown. Nice place, you know, there's nothing wrong with it. And I went out to get coffee on like Sunday morning for us. And I was in the downtown Cleveland, and I walked for 45 minutes before I found a place that was open. Just everything was boarded up and closed. And so I feel like a lot of times the big box stores or a raft of big box stores in the Walmart will come into a town where the city center's kind of been like sucked dry, and these places sort of affix themselves to the suburbs and the outside. And I just found that a really interesting kind of mechanic or dynamic, and I just had Cleveland on the mind when I did that. Also, the Cuyahoga River kept catching on fire in the 70s, which is kind of, you know, badass.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's pretty interesting and understandable. I mean, I remember seeing I can't remember, it was one of those like viral YouTube videos about 10 years ago about Cleveland. It was like a fake tourism video, and that's what I always think of Cleveland when I think of it. So, and it was very similar, very desolate. Yeah. So
I remember that video.
Yeah. So I wanted to transition a little bit into some of your film stuff. So since we last spoke, I think last time we had you on, you were talking about Satanic Panic, and that is you know, come and gone, and we did discuss that film, which I think generally we enjoyed it. What was the experience of working with Fangoria with that? And did you write the script prior to Fangoria? Like, did they pick it up, or did you kind of write it for them? How did that whole process work?
Oh, yeah, no, I wrote that script for Ted Gagan. I mean, he was the guy who directed We're Still Here, and then he did Mohawk. And I had actually written that script just for fun. And the pizza person, the main character, was the dude. And Ted wanted to do another movie after We're Still Here, and his producers wanted something that was very heavy metal and had a female lead and was contemporary, and he wasn't really interested in that. And I was kind of like, oh, well, I've got this script, and if we just swap the gender of the main character, it might fit what you're looking for. So we were actually going to do that script with a different company, and they announced it, and there was like an announcement in Variety, I think, and all this thing. And then they decided to make Mohawk instead. And so the script was just sitting there. So my manager, Adam Goldworm, took it over to the Fangoria guys, and they were all over it, which was great that they were super enthusiastic about it. And that's when Chelsea came on board. And the interesting thing about doing this movie was that it was really nice to keep rewriting it. Like, I rewrote that thing with Ted a bunch of times. Then I rewrote it for Fangoria. Then I rewrote it several times for Chelsea. And then I got to go down to Dallas where they shot it and sit at a table, read with the actors and rewrite it again, and then work with some of them one-on-one a little bit and rewrite it again. So it was really fine-tuned by the time they shot it. And I still wish I'd been on set because they hit some production problems that I was like, oh, I could have like written you something there that might have helped. But I think ultimately Chelsea did a great job. And the weirdest thing to me is it feels like Chelsea's movie, but these low budget productions, like if you see the director working, they really just seem to be putting out fires. They just seem to be dealing with whatever crisis is in front of them right that minute. And you're like, God, this is just going to be a mess. And then you see the finished product and you're like, oh, it feels like their sensibility. When did that happen? Like, how did that happen between them, like, trying to deal with the fact that, you know, one of the actors' car ran out of gas and they need him right now and his phone's dead and they can't find him, or, you know, the hard drive just got corrupted and lost all of yesterday's footage. How between those things did they have time to put something on screen that actually has a point of view?
Right. It sounds like a crazy situation, but it does sound interesting.
Well, that's these low budget productions. I mean, they always are. Yeah.
Yeah, and it sounds interesting to have that sort of iterative sort of process of, you know, every step along the way being able to do a rewrite to sort of like be agile with, you know, with a director and what they want with the table read and things like that. So it sounds pretty, you know, like a pretty interesting process to be involved in. And to be able to
and I'll keep
do that.
Yeah, and like I'm one of those writers. I'll keep rewriting until someone just starts hitting me with a board, like, you know, just beating my fingers with a board until they slip off the lifeboat.
Yeah.
Like I'll rewrite till the cows come home. I love it.
I know a lot of writers that don't, so that's it's interesting that you do. Let's see. So some of the other stuff coming up, we have. I'm not familiar with Iron Fists and Kung Fu Kicks. Is that something that is? I see that it was. It looks like it may have played some festivals. Is that available for folks to view?
No, that played some festivals, and then it's on Netflix now. It was actually okay. Netflix is the producer. Yeah, it's basically a documentary I wrote with these Australian guys about martial arts movies in Hong Kong and sort of kind of the rise of them in Hong Kong and then the death in Hong Kong, but how they sort of disseminated around the world. So one of the nice things we were able to do is like look at this stuff and show how it really fed into like parkour in France, or, you know, these filmmakers right now in Wakaliwood in Uganda, and, you know, these Scottish filmmakers and these Australian filmmakers and Indonesian and Thai filmmakers, how sort of this kind of action filmmaking that's really rough and ready that Hong Kong pioneered is dead in Hong Kong, but kind of, you know, they God, I'm trying to think of a less disgusting metaphor, but all I can think of is they've sent out these spores that have kind of infected people or, you know, impregnated filmmakers around the world with this kind of filmmaking. I mean, in the States, you see it with like Michael Jai White and that whole sort of like direct to video kind of filmmaking where they do these complicated action set pieces, but they make them in this really unique way that's not at all how Hollywood shoots action. It's not like a master shot and then doubles and all that, but they really do go shot to shot to shot the way they did in Hong Kong.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting thing, and I know we don't talk about it very often with you, but I do know you're a huge fan of Hong Kong cinema and especially of martial arts films. And if I'm not mistaken, haven't you done you do a series? Well, I'm sure you're not doing it now, but don't you program like a festival or a series in New York?
Yeah, some friends of mine and I back in 2000 started this group called Subway Cinema, which is still around. We have the New York Asian Film Festival, which is like in its 17th or 18th year now. It's up at Lincoln Center. And yeah, the original reason we wanted to do it is just this Chinatown movie theater a bunch of us went to closed. And we were kind of like, people are still going to bring the art films over, but what about like the comedies and the romances and the martial arts movies and stuff? What is the stuff we really love? So we just sort of threw our money in a pot and learned how to do it by doing it. But it was a lot of fun. But I don't do a ton with it these days. We do the New York Asian Film Festival goes on, and that's a big thing, but I'm so not involved in that. I mostly do retrospectives and marathons that are like just for fun.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting. I definitely want to check out the film Iron Fist and Kung Fu Kicks because I know you are a big fan of it, so I'd be interested in checking that out.
Well, they found some amazing archival footage, which just blew my mind. I was like, "What? You found that?"
Yeah.
So yeah, it's worth it. But anyway, sorry, what were you saying?
It's okay. Actually, that reminds me. Do you have any deep cuts for any like crazy martial arts or Hong Kong flicks that you would call out? Like one that we loved on the show was The Seventh Curse. If you
oh yeah,
like
it's so great.
Any crazy ones like that, or like Demon of the Loot, or like some other like crazy ones? Any come to mind for you of like some deep
Absolutely.
cuts?
Yeah, and the hard part is finding copies of these, but a couple of movies that just I think are mind blowers. Mercenaries from Hong Kong is incredible. It's an early '80s Shaw Brothers movie, and it's basically a men on a mission movie. So it's sort of a ragtag bunch of dudes go to Vietnam to pull off some mission. But it begins with the martial arts actor T. Lung in a little jock strap pumping iron to the sounds of Blue Oyster Cult. And then suddenly he breaks into an LSD dealer's posh apartment with a shotgun because the dealer overdosed his sister on acid and she died. He murders everyone in this apartment. Then reinforcements show up. He jumps out the apartment. It's on the 25th floor, lands in the back of a truck. Everyone comes, they surround the truck, and suddenly he bursts out of the truck on a motorcycle. And the movie just keeps going up from there. There's another great Shaw Brothers action movie, not quite as over the top as Mercenaries from Hong Kong, but called Men from the Gutter. That's just the action in it and the direction are absolutely phenomenal. It's one of those movies where you just sort of even before Jackie Chan, you're just looking at the stunts they're doing, the falls they're taking, the car stunts, and your jaw's just kind of hitting the floor. There's a great horror movie I've always loved, and I've screened it a few times, called Eternal Evil of Asia, which is Hong Kong had this trend of black magic movies in the early 80s, late 70s. People puking worms and, Boxer's Omen and stuff like that. And this is a 1995 update of those. It's very low budget, but it's a blast and features a fantastic scene where a wizard turns a guy's head into a penis, and then the guy gets so scared he pees himself out the top of his skull, which is just, once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Wow. Okay. So I'm actually not familiar with any of these, so I'm gonna have to do some digging.
Oh, good.
Yeah. And also,
I'm glad they were deep enough.
Yes, definitely. A big fan of Boxer's Omen, so definitely Eternal Evil of Asia is one that I'm going to find. But those are great suggestions, so we'll definitely check those out. And hopefully those are new ones for some of our listeners out there as well that may want to check those out. And that kind of leads me to one of the final things we want to talk about. You talk about turning someone's head into a penis, and that kind of leads me into your podcast, Super Scary Haunted Homeschool, where I found out all about Dracula's penis today.
Oh, yeah, right. Exactly. John Shirley writes about Dracula's wang at length.
Nice pun. Yes, I like it.
Yeah.
So
I
what?
didn't know it was black.
Play on words.
What's that, Raven Shadow?
I didn't know it was black.
So
How you do?
So, Grady, tell folks what they can expect from the podcast. So, what's kind of like the release cadence? What kind of stuff are you going to be covering?
Yeah. So basically, Super Scary Haunted Homeschool happened because I had all this material to go on book tour to do this live vampire show I was calling Dance of the Glampires, which was going to be like a history of vampires. And, I prefer doing a show instead of an author event just because it gives me a chance to make a bigger jackass out of myself. And I think it's more entertaining for people than just watching me read from a book and take questions. But suddenly, there was a plague. And so my book tour got canceled. And so I've been trying to put together something, to do. And I realized that virtual events were fun, but it was hard to control a Zoom event, right? You can't do a lot with visuals or sound. And I did a lot of audio stuff in university. And so I was like, oh, hell, I'll just I'll take this show and turn it into a podcast. So what's going to happen is the first season, I think it's going to have 12 episodes. And what it's going to be is like a full length episode each week. And then every other week, it's going to be a shorter Saturday school episode. That's like, instead of being 40 minutes or so, it's going to be about 20. And so it'll be 12 total. And it's all going to be vampires. I'm editing the second episode right now, which is going to be out on this coming Wednesday. And it's all about sort of from the very first actual real life recorded account of a vampire to the very last one, which you won't believe where it happens. Just like a BuzzFeed listicle. Less penis talk in the second episode, but more talk about, actually the third episode is going to be about the book Dracula. And that one has a lot of talk about menstruation. So a lot to look forward to if you're a menstruation fan. The second episode, a lot of talk of international communism, which, believe it or not, is deeply tied into vampirism. Marx was a big vampire fan, it turns out.
Interesting. Yeah, this is the stuff that, this goes deep. Once again, that's sort of your MO is, most people
deeper than anyone wants.
Yeah, exactly. Into the deep recesses of your mind, the things you never wanted to know. Grady's going to tell you about.
Well, it's also fun to research this stuff. Like, Marx straight up has a shout out to Vlad the Impaler in Das Kapital as a vampire, which is just insane since that came out 30 years before Bram Stoker wrote Dracula.
Yeah.
That idea that Vlad the Impaler was a vampire was existing in pop culture. It's just, I find this stuff, you may find it boring. I find it fascinating, and I will talk about it for 40 minutes a week, whether people are listening or not. It's just me rambling in a room.
Well, we'll definitely be listening for sure. I know Raven Shadow, you checked it out today. What you learned all kinds of stuff, right?
I dug it. No, I was doing laundry and dishes. It was very nice. I didn't know. There was some fucking rude fucking Draculas out there. Were the ones that would pee on priests and throw poop?
The Greek, Greek Greco-Lacus. That was a plot. Yeah, it was a plot twist for me when I was reading that story in this book. And all of a sudden it's like, and then he climbs up on the church and began to urinate on everyone. I'm like, whoa, I didn't see that coming.
You can learn lots, Raven Shadow, when you do laundry, apparently now.
Hey, I learned a bunch. Teach me how to learn, Grady.
The goal is education.
Yes.
It's fair. That is the goal, my parents said.
But I love how your entire takeaway was piss and shit.
Yeah.
No.
I listened to like the first 10 minutes of it. I had to take care of something else. I'm going to join up with it after the show, actually, to listen to the rest of it. And yeah, it was almost like the vampires version of the Aristocrats.
Yeah. Well, the vampire folktale is really the same over and over again. It's just like everyone puts their own spin on it. So in Greece, it's like someone dies and they come back and their family gets sick one by one and they die. And eventually they have to dig him up, chop off his head and burn his body. But in Greece, there's pee and poop throwing, In Hungary, there's a lot more like incesty stuff. Like it's different in every disgusting foreign country.
Yeah, it seems sure by some of the criteria I could be a vampire. Like, wait, he's skinny and weak. Yep.
Yeah.
Vampire. He drinks too much. Yeah. Yeah. Know some bad girls. Bad girls could be vampires. But it almost seemed like they crammed too much into the vampire. Like everything was a vampire. What was the vampire chicken?
Oh, a vampire chicken. Yeah. Vampire chicken. And like in Greece, they don't make a big difference between vampires and werewolves. They're kind of the same word for both, which is confusing.
And if people want to hear more about this, they can go check out Grady's episode, because I don't want to give everything away. So I want to leave some surprises there, so people can check out Super Scary Haunted Homeschool. I know I found it on Apple Podcasts. I know it's also on Spotify. If it's not available on all the other podcatchers, I'm sure it'll be showing up soon. Is that right, Grady?
Yeah, it's sort of, you know how these things are. You kind of percolate out on all the platforms. It takes like a few hours, days.
Yeah, exactly. So if folks want to check it out, go ahead and subscribe. And as Grady mentioned, you'll get some episodes weekly, at least for the first season, and then we'll see if there's a second season. We'll see if he brings it back.
There'll definitely be a second season. I have to, after the first 12 episodes, I have to take some months off to write a book. That's coming out next year, and then then there'll be more. Cool. So everyone go check out the new podcast from Grady Hendrix, Super Scary Haunted Homeschool. It's available now. And I guess before we wind up here, Grady, we always cover so much ground here, and there's so much I want to ask about. But I would be remiss if I didn't ask about Horror Store. Is that still moving forward as far as you're aware? Oh, yeah. So there's going to be a big Horror Store announcement sometime in the next couple of weeks.
Oh, great.
I'm in trouble if I say anything, but yeah, no, things are really good with that project. So,
awesome.
Yeah, keep watching the skies. I hate having to be coy like that. It's ridiculous. It's just like people get legit pissed off when things don't all come out on their speed. So I have to shut up.
Yeah, and
you can keep a secret.
Yeah, we'll turn off the live stream. You can tell just us.
Yeah, we're very good at keeping a secret.
No, but we
I trust you.
Yes. I do, and I can appreciate that. I understand the need for discretion when it comes to that stuff. They need to control the messaging, so totally get it. But good to hear that there is some news coming on that front. So,
oh yeah, I'm psyched.
And is there anything else? Obviously, you are, as you said, you'll be writing your new book. Once again, probably don't want to give too much away, but is there anything you can talk about with any new projects that we haven't discussed yet?
Oh yeah. Yeah, so there's a bunch of stuff. A lot's going to be announced in the next couple of weeks.
Yep.
But I've got a book coming out next year that I'm just doing some revisions on now, because it was a book set in the modern day, and I realized that I can't have a book set in the modern day that doesn't incorporate coronavirus. So I'm having to bump it back time-wise, because I just don't want that to take over the book. And the problem is you really have to bump it back like 10 years or so, because if you write a book that's set in 2018, like you get to the end and then everyone's going to read and be like, right. That's like that moment in the movie where they're like, okay, honey, goodbye. I love you. I'm glad we repaired our marriage. And then there's like a title on the screen that's like, have fun at work in the financial district. And it says on screen, September 11th, 2001. And everyone's like, oh, and they all died. Like, a book ends in 2018 and everyone's like, exactly. And then the next year they all died of coronavirus. So I'm having to set it back to get rid of all foreshadowing. I'm having to move it back to like 2009.
Yeah.
So that's coming out next year. I've got a book under contract for the year after, for 2022, another novel. And then somewhere in there, I think the very end of this year, I've got a nonfiction book coming out that's sort of like Paperbacks from Hell, but it's for Kung Fu movies coming to America.
Oh, nice.
I'm working with this guy, Chris Bajali, who's this historian and research and collector. And this is going to be this really lavishly illustrated book that's just about not about making these movies in Hong Kong, but the insanity when they came to the States. I mean, it's everything from underground judo rings to Jimmy Cagney to people to porn barons putting pipe bombs in their competitors' pickup trucks in Georgia, to just the most insane stuff. I mean, it's like we've got everything from street gangs taking over and running hospitals in the South Bronx to the birth of hip hop to some of the most insane distributor stories ever. Like we've got distributors getting arrested by cops in New Jersey for digging up graveyards. I mean, it's bonkers.
This sounds incredible. I can't wait for this.
Yeah, it was supposed to be a quick book, and then Chris and I started digging in, and we just started coming up with more and more lunacy. And so it's gotten longer and longer. We can finally see a light at the end of the tunnel right now.
Oh, excellent! I cannot wait for that one. That sounds great. And I'll kind of wind up things here with one last question from El Goro, and he says, over the past few years, I've decided to fill a sizable gap in my horror knowledge by reading the complete library of Stephen King. Your excellent tour series, The Great Stephen King Reread, has been my first stop every time I finish one of Uncle Stevie's books. Unfortunately, I've gotten to
thanks.
Bazaar of Bad Dreams, and thus the end of your insightful commentaries of the King's work. Any chance that you will one day discuss his newer works?
Absolutely. Doing that I love doing that. And it was supposed to be this gig. I was just going to do the first 10 books for tour because, they pay me like $50 a post. And I was like, okay, well, I could use a couple $100.
Yeah.
It wound up taking me, I did all the books up to Bazaar of Bad Dreams. It took me like 5 years because his books don't get shorter as he goes along.
Right.
And so what I'm kind of waiting to have happen is I think since Bazaar Bad Dream, there have been like 5 King books, and I'm waiting for him to get about 10, and then I'm going to do the next chunk of those books. But I like to have them a little in the rear view mirror before I read them. Like when I having perspective on them, seems like when I used to read them as they came out, like I read Tommy Knockers as a kid and hated it. I was like, no, this sucks. But then 8 or 9 years later, well, Tommy Knockers isn't the new Stephen King book anymore, and you have to wait a year for the next one. Tommy Knockers is one of 7 or 8 books he's published in the last few years. And so, you're like, well, that one I didn't like, but the next one was really good. And it really tones down the volume on your initial knee-jerk reaction, or at least for me, and really helps me see the books better. So I want to let a little time pass before that.
All right, fair enough.
Also, the books are long, man. I need time to read them.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, you're writing your own books, you're writing screenplays. You must not have all that much time to read for leisure. So
yeah,
all right,
exactly. It's weird. I've reading's become my job now, which makes me feel weird about reading. It's like I'm on the clock.
Yeah, exactly. All right, well...
And it doesn't look very impressive. My wife has a hard time understanding when I'm on the couch reading. That's me working.
Yeah, no, exactly.
She's not impressed.
You have to punch the clock and, kind of put up a do not disturb sign.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, before we wind things up here, Grady, I want to let folks know where they can get the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. Where's the best place? Because, maybe their local bookstores aren't quite open yet or whatever. But what's the best way for you to... I don't know if there's a way that pays out more for you or if there's a best way for people to find the book.
Sorry. No, everywhere is about the same in terms of what I get paid. But what I'd really like to sort of ask people to do right now is like you said, a lot of local bookstores are closed, but so many of them are doing delivery and curbside pickup and, shipping. When I saw my book tour get canceled, I watched all these brick and mortar indie bookstores around the country pivot on a dime from being stores where people came in the door to places doing shipping and delivery and curbside pickup and doing virtual events and all this stuff. And it was pretty incredible. And a lot of these bookstores, there was a platform coming along that really a lot of them are using now called bookshop.org. And that is sort of a competitor to, not a competitor, but you go on there and you find your book, and then you can either select the independent bookstore you're going to buy it from, and they'll get that cut of the sales, or you let that retailer cut of the sales go to a slush fund for indie bookstores that goes to help them sort of as a stabilization fund right now. It's a couple of $1 million in it at the moment. And, there's no reason you can't buy this and get it shipped to you from your local bookstore. Mm-hmm. And we need to, even though it's listen, I got nothing against Amazon. But these stores, Amazon will be around next year. These stores might not be, and they need customers. And even though the books are maybe $4 or $5, $6 more than they are on Amazon, I view that as that's a little surcharge I'm paying to have neighbors, to make sure these folks survive this. In my hometown in Charleston, the bookstore, the indie bookstore we had, Chapter 2, growing up, when that closed, it was 15 years before we got another bookstore. And that's a long time to go without one. So, yeah, just reach out to your local bookstore, see if they're doing shipping, and buy from them because they need the help.
And I think that's a great point. We actually spoke a couple weeks ago. We had our good buddy on who does a lot of film programming in Charlotte, North Carolina, and he was saying that a lot of these films that are coming out now, you can screen them virtually, and you can actually buy tickets through your local theater, and they get a cut of it. So it's a similar idea. So we've been talking about that, but definitely continue.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, continue to support your independent bookstores, your independent theaters, because yes, after this is all said and done, they may not be around if you don't. And I know Amazon's convenient. I get a lot of stuff from Amazon, but if you're looking for things that you can get, like at a bookstore, or a film that's playing virtually that you can give some money to your local theater, I think that's a great idea. So, and I didn't even really know that bookshop.org was a thing. So yeah, definitely if folks are looking for books to kind of pass the time, definitely do that. Look up your local bookstore, your independent bookstore, and let's keep them afloat so they're there when this is all said and done. Awesome. So
well said.
Excellent. So people can go check out pretty much all your work. If they haven't checked out any of your books, they can go ahead and do so and buy them. But the new one, the Southern Book, I thought I was going to get it on that last one. The Southern Book Club's Guide.
Who thought up this title?
The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires is a New York Times bestseller, and it's a great honor, Grady, and congratulations on that, and also congratulations on the release of the podcast. I've been really digging it so far with the first episode, and looking forward to more. And is there anything else you wanna plug? Any social media, any friends' work, or anything you want to plug before we say goodbye to you?
No, friends' work. I don't have friends. No, just to say, if you want to listen to the podcast or learn more about my books or find any of my ridiculous social media platforms, just GradyHendricks.com. That's where all of it lives. So it's easy. It's just my name.
There you go, Grady Hendricks, and that's with an X. H-E-N,
with an X, yes.
Yep, Hendrix. So if you guys want to check it out, and get everything there. And Grady's obviously also on social media if you want to follow him there. And Grady, we appreciate your time, man. I know things are pretty crazy for you, especially crazy for everyone. But I know you have a lot going on, so I know your time is valuable, and we really appreciate you taking some time to hang out with us. It's always a pleasure to chat with you.
No, dude, thanks for having me. It's great to talk to y'all. It's becoming a ritual.
I know it's kind of like a yearly thing. We'll have to do a yearly catch up when you get a book coming out or some big project coming out. We'll definitely have to
June of next year. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. So we'll get a RSVP, a return engagement for June of next year. So Grady Hendricks, best of luck with everything, and stay safe out there, my friend. And we'll catch up with you again soon down the road.
Thanks, man. Take care, you guys.
Yep. Take care, buddy.
Thank you. Bye.
All right.
Bye.
We're going to head to a break, and we'll be back in just a few moments.
The following message is a paid advertisement for the Cult of Muscle podcast. The Cult of Muscle. You're either in it or you're dead.
It's the dawning of a new age. The halls of Valhalla have been shuttered. The heroes of yore have either retreated to the shadows or taken to capering for the amusement of the small folk. Their past glories a distant memory. The barbells have been torn from their once puma-strong grips. The beards shorn from their square jaws, only to be transplanted onto flannel-clad, puny weaklings with fingers barely powerful enough to strum a ukulele. The time has come, my brothers, to restore order from the chaos. No longer will our heroes be forgotten. No longer will their great deeds be viewed through a foggy lens of irony. Hear now our rallying cry as we scream it from the mountaintops, as we bellow it from iTunes and Libsyn and Facebook. It's time to join the cult, my brothers. So don your cloaks and enter the Cult of Muscle.
I'm Alex West. And I'm Andrea Subasati, and we're from the Faculty of Horror podcast.
And you're listening to Trick or Treat Radio.
Oh, delicious nerds. Ms. M knows you like to chat it up with other sexy shut-ins about comics, movies, video games, and your favorite TV shows. If that sounds like you, cuddle up to the Trick or Treat Radio Facebook group, or the FIB. That stands for Fan Interaction Board. Just go to Facebook and search for Trick or Treat Radio and have more fun than a Jedi at a lightsaber sale. Not enough? Watch us on YouTube, The Deadites TV, all one word. Last but not least, check out the world's most dangerous talk radio show, Trick or Treat Radio, at trickortreatradio.com.
Returned on Trick or Treat Radio. Man, Grady's always fucking awesome, isn't he?
He's also always fucking busy. That guy's not rest.
It's
Jesus.
Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous. He is always putting out something. He's always doing something. And yeah, it sounds like he has 2 books coming out this year at the very least. So yeah, crazy. It's great to catch up with him, and the podcast is a lot of fun. It's you know, kind of a typical Grady kind of tongue in cheek, you know, with the humor. It's really well done. So if you guys haven't yet, go check out his podcast, Super Scary Haunted Homeschool. Give it a listen. I think you'll dig it. I think most people will dig it. So
yeah, I'm gonna listen to the rest of it when we're done with the show tonight.
Yeah, I'm glad you got a little bit in. But all right, so now we kind of back on normal format, I guess. we had to kick things off with an interview right at the top with Grady Hendricks. Wanted to accommodate his schedule and kind of get that right at the top of the show. But now we're gonna kind of jump into the regular stuff. We won't have as much time as we normally do to kind of shoot the shit at the beginning, you know, because we obviously jump right into a discussion with Grady. But we will be talking about a film in just a few minutes. But I'm actually, I need to check out some of those flicks that he told us about. Mercenaries from Hong Kong, Men from the Gutter, and Eternal Evil of Asia.
They would have Mercenary one.
Yeah. Maybe we'll have to see if we can work in like a review of one of those on the show sometime, or maybe it's a Patreon or like a special or something. I don't know. We'll look and see if we can find them available online. He said they might be hard to find, but we'll have to do a little bit of digging.
Shit.
So you know what I'm going to do right now? I'm going to we're all over the fucking place. I'm going to go and let's do intros since you know we don't have like an hour to kind of just shoot the shit. We'll do some intros, introduce everybody, because who knows? You know, Grady might bring some new listeners to the show as he typically does. So, want everyone to know who's who, and then also you guys can just kind of give some updates if there's anything you want to talk about as I introduce everyone. So, I am Johnny Wolfenstein, the pencil pusher and producer of media for Trick or Treat Radio, and also one of the co-hosts of Force Insensitive, Star Wars podcast. And we just put out a new episode yesterday, actually. And we're also one thing we're doing for Force Insensitive is now on Friday evenings between 7 and 8. We're going to be starting up. That's Eastern Standard Time. We're going to be playing Battlefront 2, which is a Star Wars online shooter. And we're going to be playing that on our buddy Alberto's Twitch stream. So if people want to check us out on watch us play that, we're going to be talking over it and just being assholes while we shoot each other. You can check that out on Alberto's Twitch stream. It's twitch.tv/theglitchybit. And you can go ahead and follow Alberto, and then when he goes live on Friday nights, you can get notified of that, and you can watch me, Rocky, and Alberto play Battlefront 2. Mars may join the stream, but he doesn't have a PC that can handle the game, so he won't be playing. But he may jump on and commentate. But yeah, we had fun doing it a couple weeks ago on the May the 4th celebration. So if you guys want to check that out, feel free to do so. I think that's all I got going on. Just, yeah, I don't think I have anything else. But we also have the vulgar guru of horror, the star Blood Pigs Fetus, and the upcoming Morbid Tales and Septic, one-time contributor for Horror Hound Magazine, Monster Zero.
Howdy ho, everybody.
So what's up with you, MZ? Anything new? Anything you want to tell people about?
No. I'm the one with the most amount of time. You think I'd have something going on, but I don't.
You watch
I did
movies?
try. Let's see. The usual stuff that I watch. I watch a lot. I watched some Italian stuff. I watched Joe Bob on Friday nights. If you guys have been keeping up with that. Joe Bob had going on Deep Red, Profondo Rosso, and what was the other one?
Brain Damage, right?
Brain Damage. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, hello, Brian. How you doing?
Yeah.
Hello, Brian. How are you?
Yeah. What did
Too funny.
Did you learn anything about those films that you didn't know previously? Because I know you love both those films and have seen them a great deal.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I learned a couple of things. Joe Bob is, and I would imagine his staff as well. I can't imagine it's just him. Come up with these little nuggets of information that I had no idea about. So it's interesting, some of the things that you learn, and he always puts a very comedic spin on it, very dry wit. That's involved with his commentary on the making of these films or any particular actor, actress, director. So, he keeps it fresh, even if you've seen the movie like a couple hundred times. Joe Bob brings something new to the table that's fresh, that's insightful, and comedic, at times. And I love Joe Bob. I'm so thrilled that he's back on and he's doing his thing, and it gives it gives a little life back to these kind of films that maybe have been forgotten over time, and especially now in the world that we're living in, because he's all about the drive-in. There's a lot of talk about how drive-ins might be coming back because of the coronavirus.
Yeah.
And that is not such a bad idea, where theaters are, being threatened of closing down. Although I think I heard that, I heard Amazon might be buying AMC theaters out. I don't know how true that is.
It's just a rumor right now, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But if drive-ins can come back, that'd be fantastic. I would love to see the drive-ins come back. I haven't been to a drive-in. The last drive-in that I was at was, what was it? 1998 at the Edgemere.
Oh wow, yeah.
I was with my girlfriend at the time, and let's see, there was a double feature. There was Grease, so we went to the drive-in. We watched. Well, actually, I watched Grease. She didn't. And
oh boy. Maybe we should ask.
She heard it, but she didn't see it.
Oh boy.
And then Deep Impact.
Oh, that's,
Ooh.
Yeah. Wait. The movie or
wait. wait. Grease and Deep Impact was the fucking feature?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who booked that? Who booked that shit?
How the hell do I know? The guy at the Edgemere. All I know is it was the last two movies I saw: Grease and Deep Impact.
Jesus.
But that's a shame because we actually live, to my knowledge, which isn't very much, per capita in where we live in Massachusetts. Don't we have the most drive-ins in this area than most places in the country? Because we still have the one in my neck of the woods, the Leicester Drive-In, and there's still out in Rhode Island, which is not that far from.
Yeah. I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah, that's the one in North. I think it's North Smithfield, or it's whatever 146. Yeah, that one's still good. Yeah.
Yeah.
On the highway before you even get to the casino.
Yeah.
Where I danced with more at the time. Actually, it's a different story, but no, because I remember seeing Guardians of the Galaxy in the drive-in the weekend after we saw it early on. So I mean, it's still around, so you should totally come. And I wish I want to organize a drive-in night. We'll do a drive-in night for the blackout.
What are you going to show?
All of us,
Grease and Deep Impact.
All three of us in a car.
No, we'll get 10 of us in cars, but we can all fit in. We'll rent one. We'll rent a Winnebago.
Which films you showing? Grease and Deep Impact?
No, I'm not showing it. No, maybe when they actually show it. When they actually go to the drive, we'll all go to the movies and get the popcorn. We'll bring we'll get pizza and beer and shit, man. We'll get chairs. We'll get fucked up.
Vegan pizza?
Yeah, then you get.
They get vegan pizza, yeah. I just found out.
Yeah, but then you get bitten to death by the fucking mosquitoes. Who needs that?
We'll get the off, man. I got the deep woods off.
Nah, that shit don't work.
Aries, you work in the woods. What off do you recommend?
I don't use bug spray.
He uses a blowtorch.
Yeah, he doesn't use bug spray. No, he doesn't even use that. He's got a natural repellent with all the fur on his face.
No, it's all the whiskey.
And on his
whiskey. I don't like the blue.
It's all the alcohol.
Yeah. 50-50, it's whiskey and whiskey.
Oh, man. So, all right, let's keep moving around. We also have, speak of the devil, the whiskey pickling, triumph riding, stage erecting, whiskey drinking, chief of security, the warrior of Nor'easters, America's sweetheart, Rick Rubin's stunt double, he drinks and breaks things, Ares, god of war.
Hello, all.
Anything you care to update on, Ares?
I just been up to the same old, work and come home and more work.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah. No, I will say though, recently I was working in my backyard. I was up on a ladder. It was warm. I took my flannel off. This flannel, actually, it has been washed before I finish this story. Took the flannel off and just threw it on the ground because I was up on a ladder. Next thing I know, I look down, and there's my I have two dogs. Big dog I like, little dog which I hate. Little dog is pissing on my flannel. and making eye contact with me while he's doing it.
Love you, Daddy.
Oh, that's too funny.
No.
Wait, you didn't wash it first, right? You just put it on?
Oh yeah. I got dog piss on me right now, yeah.
Oh, that's
now,
funny.
I'm not a complete asshole, so I didn't want to beat the dog, but the thought had crossed my mind to piss on the dog. But I didn't want to be chasing the dog around with my pants down in my backyard. The neighbors
Come
might
here.
start talking.
Come here.
I got something for you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's all anybody needs to see is you run around with your schwang hanging out chasing after a dog.
Chasing the dog, yeah.
They don't know. Be like your neighbor's Fred. He pissed on my flannel. Like, they don't know the backstory. They're just like, oh, it's crazy old Aries pissing on dogs again.
Wow. Okay.
That's all I got.
All right. Well, hey, that's a lot.
Yeah, I don't know if you need any more than that.
We also have the glorified grip, the chain smoking, hand kissing, baby shaking, lorazepam loving, former comic book reading nerd, the official smoke chamber for the Lair of Lost Swag, the pimp of promotions, the Italian rapscallion, professional bullshitter, the cool principal, the proprietor and secretary of the Sexy Speakeasy, Mr. Runtime, the Duke of Degeneracy, and the Parisian Bruja himself, Michael Ravenshadow.
Oh, it's very exciting, Johnny.
We can't, you paused 5 seconds to pat yourself on the back before talking.
I don't know. I didn't count it. I'm not sure what the timer is. But no, I think we can all agree that it's very exciting that we're still alive here in week 7 of this. And by week 7, I mean since none of us have been together. And truly for me, it's really just been the inside of you with the Michael Rosenbaum podcast. And a lot of commotion this week has been the artwork of our friend Tim from Australia with his erotic Raven Shadow pastel painting.
Yeah, how'd that make you feel to turn you on?
Not me, but I've had a lot of conversations about it. People have been talking to me. People have been reaching out. But I don't know if you guys seen the follow-up artwork he did of all of you guys.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Which I think is great.
I think I was wielding a carrot.
You were fucking You were in a wielding a carrot like Mjolnir.
Yeah, exactly.
It was so fucking sexy. MZ is riding a hot dog, a la Dr. Strangelove. A big red hot dog. Yeah. And then Ares is on a throne with a dog next to him. I'm assuming it's not the dog that peed on his flannel. But I was the only one that was dressed like Zardoz.
As you should be.
Yes. Nobody likes.
Well, I don't know about that. You kind of look like a ranchero in an S&M club.
Yeah.
The S&M
I don't know what that
ranchero.
first. Yeah, no, I went to a couple of places, but that's not my bag, baby. No.
What the fuck was that? Is that a motorcycle? Motorcycle was just drove by someone's house.
That was mine. I have a window open. Need to get some air in here.
He's air the place out.
Yeah.
So, as a little side note, MZ, I've been noticing a lot of activity around Art Bradish.
Yeah, so have I. I've noticed a couple of cars and trucks parking outside several days, and the Winnebago is behind there. So,
but the awnings are out now, and they're blackboard soon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know I'll be there. At least.
Art Bradish don't give a fuck about no stay-at-home order.
No, I guess not.
I
guess not.
Only.
But hey, you know what? As so long as they maintain the 6 foot radius, away from people, I'm fine with it. Just so long as they maintain that. And even if they don't, I'll maintain it my own damn self and just stay the fuck away from everybody.
I'm not gonna dig our bread. I dig on it because I've never eaten there. I want to. I want us all to go there and make it an adventure. But do you think the hygiene at Art Bradish is really much different before the coronavirus?
No, they haven't cleaned that place. They haven't cleaned that joint in 10 years.
Because I was getting anxiety.
I think you're being a little bit. I think you're being a little bit disingenuous, Wolfie. Just for them to get their licenses and inspection, state inspections. I'm sure that they have to jazz the place up, somewhat. You're making it sound like just because it's ugly on the outside, it's ugly on the inside.
But the thing about inspections, though, you just got to get it nice for that day. Like they tell you you're coming, like they're coming here on the 14th. So like from the 10th, you're fucking scrubbing that shit like a motherfucker, right?
Yeah. Which makes sense, sure.
Because I was anxiety because I ordered pizza from my local joint, and I'm pretty sure the ex-cons and stepmoms who worked there, maybe I'm not sure how much gloves were happening there this time last year.
Well, I don't. You know what? The place still attracts customers. The place makes a profit every year, 20-fold. So they must be doing something right.
20-fold. You have their numbers? You do their books?
Yes, I do. Oh, yes, I do.
Okay.
I got lots of time to do that now. So.
Yes.
I can't wait for it to open. I can't wait for it to open.
You don't give a fuck. You're going, right? Day they open?
Goddamn right.
Jesus.
I'll be there, and I'll order my 3-foot-long chilies, and I'll just be happy.
How many sodas?
None. I don't drink soda.
Oh, you gave it up?
Diet Coke.
Yeah.
Oh, good for you, man. I knew you talked about it. I wasn't sure if
you
kept up with it.
No, well, I fell off the wagon a little bit. I'll say that, let me see, I haven't had last time I had a soda, I think was maybe, maybe 5-6 months ago.
Oh, good for you, man. Good for you.
I mean, I've been drinking a lot of tea and water,
like
water.
Like bottled tea or like homebrewed tea?
Yeah. The homebrewed tea I can't deal with. That's
you've been drinking sugar water.
Yeah, it's basically the same amount of sugar. Yeah, it's basically the same amount of sugar as soda. Might as well just drink soda.
All right, then I'll go back to soda then.
Make a tea, put some honey in it. It'll be great.
You drink tea with honey?
I do.
I just drink tea.
I cannot picture that.
I just drink tea straight. I don't put anything in it.
I believe you. Well, Wolfie, I believe you, but Aries, no. All I've ever seen you drink is whiskey. I don't think I've ever seen you drink anything but whiskey.
I've seen him drink.
I don't think you've ever had
water.
I don't think he's ever had a water in his life.
This right here, this giant cup. This is all water. This one was water, and I finished it. I drink a lot of water, and I drink tea.
Yeah, there you go.
Wow.
Now I do. Honey is not something I always put in tea. I was recommending it for you, being someone who doesn't drink tea a lot.
Yeah.
Or you could do. I was gonna say you could do stevia. That's a natural sweetener.
Oh, honey, yeah.
No, stevia.
But what's? Oh, stevia. I don't know.
Look at him making a face. It's a plant.
No, because I'm trying to think. Isn't that like an artificial sweetener?
No, it's a plant, dude.
Okay. Oh, like I'm supposed to know this.
You should.
Okay.
You're talking about. I think you're talking about Splenda or something, maybe. I don't know. I don't know what the others are, but stevia is basically a plant.
Oh, okay. All right.
All right.
I've been drinking hot water.
You've been drinking hot water? Yeah, right.
I had been. The last I was drinking hot water. Yeah.
Were you chasing down your beer with hot water?
No. But the more I stopped drinking coffee about 2 years ago, right? And then I thought, well, maybe I'll have like tea in the morning to have that kind of rush of having something. Just not the rush, but the muscle memory of having something hot in the morning. Right? It's cold in the but I do try to, despite all the tobacco and the hops and the other stuff I put inside me, like maybe I should slow down on caffeine because that's fucking bad for you. So there's not always decaf. So now I've been drinking like hot water in a mug.
Opening your mouth in the shower doesn't count.
No, I've been boiling. It's funny. I saw Howard do it. How Stern did it on the Comedians with Cars with Seinfeld, and he ordered like hot water with lemon. And
He
I'm
was
like,
just being obnoxious.
yeah, and I'm like, that's a fucking douchebag thing, Howard. But probably for his voice though. But for the last like 5 days, I've been just drinking hot water. Is that fucking weird? I need fucking somebody come over. Somebody hang out.
All right. Well, you know what? We should probably jump into this film review because we're like 90 minutes into the show right now, and I don't want the show to go 4 fucking hours. So let's jump in and talk about The Lodge. The Lodge is rated R. It is an hour 48 minutes. It's a drama horror thriller from directors Severin Fiala and Veronica Franz, and it is written by Veronica Franz and Severin Fiala, and also Sergio Koski. And the film stars Riley Keough, Jaden Martell, Leah McHugh, Richard Armitage, and Alicia Silverstone. And the synopsis: a soon-to-be stepmom is snowed in with her fiancé's 2 children at a remote holiday village. Just as relations begin to thaw between the trio, some strange and frightening events take place. All right, so this is available on Hulu. So for anyone who has not yet checked it out and maybe might want to after we discuss it, you can check this out on Hulu or also on VOD as well if you want. And this film is the follow-up to Goodnight Mommy from the directors, which I think, it came out in 2014, but I think most of us reviewed that fairly positively. Do you guys recall liking Goodnight Mommy?
I remember.
Yeah. Ravenchild probably doesn't remember the movie, but that's all right.
I don't. I keep thinking about when I hear that title, I hear about Monster Zero. I think about Monster Zero dying, about the whole like balls your father type thing.
Oh my god.
I get the mommy movie.
Well, if he look, let's put it this way: if he did remember it, then it was one that he had seen.
Yeah.
That's not a guarantee.
I've been seeing the movies. Okay.
True.
Now it was
this was dirt.
It's an Austrian film, Goodnight Mommy. So it was in German, Raven Shadow, and it was the mother had bandages throughout like most of the movie with the 2 little twin kids.
Yeah, she was like in the past. She had like Dutch. She wore like blue, right? It was that one.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it go with that?
There you go.
Yeah.
Look at you. Look at the brain on Raven Shadow.
Thank you. Yeah, no, Gate. Yeah, the whole like goats and outfits. Yeah, it's not my bag, baby.
The goats and the outfits. So yeah, that's
she wore blue. She wore blue, right? The blue.
Yes, the blue. I think you're right. I don't know. I don't remember the blue. But anyways, actually no, you're talking about the wind. I think you're talking about the wind. Where the color, the dress, yeah. All right, so they also did a segment, Die Trude in the Field Guide to Evil, which we did last year, I think it was, and this is their follow-up film to Goodnight Mommy, and so yeah, it's been getting some decent buzz in various horror circles. So we're gonna dive in and talk about it. First thing I want to mention though is the star Riley Keough. We mentioned this last week, but if people didn't hear, Riley Keough, as told to me by T-Dog, is Elvis Presley's granddaughter, and she's the daughter of Lisa Marie Presley and also Danny Keough, who is in this film. Danny Keough played the character of Aaron, who I think was sort of like the cult leader.
Yeah.
He didn't have like any close-ups necessarily, so it's hard to tell. But he's the only character that was unaccounted for, so I'm guessing he was sort of the cult leader. So, but yeah, kind of cool. Riley Keough has been, her star's been on the rise. She's been on a few films that we've reviewed over the last few years. And we'll talk about her performance, but I think I thought she was real good in this. Also, one thing that was kind of a surprise at the beginning, I know they've produced some films over the last few years, but seeing Hammer at the beginning, MZ.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did
That
you
logo.
Sorry,
I'm sorry. You're gonna say.
So what did you think of that, MZ?
What? Oh, I was impressed. It's always good to see Hammer. When they came back several years ago, when The Woman in Black with Daniel Radcliffe, I was wondering if it was going to be, not only the film, but just the company in itself, and its emergence is going to be successful. And that movie came out about 7 years ago, maybe. So I really haven't heard too much. I think we reviewed another Hammer film since then. I can't remember which one it is. I'm almost certain that we did. And so at least I know that the Hammer name is still going on and it's still alive. The studio is still thriving, and they're still putting out material. And that's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool,
keeping
though.
the Hammer name alive. That's what I love.
Yeah.
It had the logo. It was almost, they did like a Marvel or DC thing where it had like in the logo they had like the pictures. Right?
Yeah, they had like the old poster art segments scurried around and through the Hammer logo.
Yeah.
And as far as this film goes, I mean, I haven't seen every Hammer film made. I mean, I just don't have that much time.
Yes, you do.
Actually, I do, but
yeah, that's your project now. Watch it all.
Yeah, right. I think I've seen maybe 15 or 16 Hammer films, maybe. This one did not feel like a Hammer film at all. I mean, I understand the style is different from the way Hammer films were then to the way they are now. But at least, like, The Woman in Black had that old-timey feel to it. This one didn't. But we'll talk about that more as we go along.
Yeah. I just, in taking a look here, so the Hammer films, this is sort of like the brand name resurrection from MZ, you fucking that buzzing in your phone drive me crazy.
What buzz? I don't hear any buzzing.
Someone got a notification and it fucking buzzed, and every single time it happens, it's fucking annoying. Turn your fucking notifications off. Or
hold on, let me try some. Hold on.
Oh boy.
And we're about to lose MZ.
Yeah.
No. Hold on. I'll be right back. You keep on going.
All right. So the films that Hammer has done recently are Beyond the Rave in 2008, Let Me In 2010, The Resident in 2011, Wakewood in 2011, The Woman in Black, as MZ mentioned, in 2012, The Quiet Ones in 2014, and The Woman in Black, Angel of Death in 2015, the sequel to that. And then also The Lodge. So it's been a few years since they have put out a film, but it was cool to see the Hammer logo, and we'll obviously talk a little bit about that as to whether or not this felt like a Hammer film, or if there is a kind of feel to a Hammer film these days or not. But all right, so we'll jump into the flick here, and as I mentioned, so we start out. They were showing some interesting sort of like shots of a dollhouse, and at first I didn't even recognize it as a dollhouse until they showed the mother, sort of her eye looking in, and I was like, oh shit, like the way it was shot, I just didn't see it as a dollhouse, So I thought that was kind of an interesting thing, and the dollhouse kind of plays a role in things. I started again. The dollhouse plays a role in things moving forward here, as sort of like these little interstitials between scenes, which I thought was kind of interesting way to do it. You guys have any comments on the dollhouse?
No, I thought it was good. Vibrate.
I was just going to say that it does give away the fact that it did not feel like a dollhouse, like you mentioned, and attribute that to the fine camera work that was done, because filming inside a dollhouse, even when the one side is open, is not very easy. But the idea of the dollhouse plays a very integral part in this movie.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's I think it's cool the way they shot it, and then all of a sudden you see an eyeball kind of looking in, and then it pans out, and then it's the mom, and then they show her for a few seconds, and I was like probably after like 2 or 3 minutes, I'm like, holy shit, that's Alicia Silverstone. You know, I just didn't recognize her. I haven't seen her in much recently, so I didn't recognize her right off the bat. Did you guys like see it right away?
No, I mean, I knew you mentioned it last week that she was in it. And in a weird way, I think she was kind of channeling her own, like, Elizabeth Shue, you know, from Babysitting and whatnot. Like, even though she's much older and Silverstone is our age, but I thought she was good. I mean, I'm not the biggest mark for her, and maybe nor should I be. I'm not the demographic for Alicia Silverstone, but good for her in this. I thought she was a nice surprise.
Good for her.
Good for her.
Good for her for getting out of the house. Yeah. No, I knew it was her because, I mean, first of all, I mean, she really hasn't changed much at all. She's still got that face, you know, with the kind of pouty lips. So that was a dead giveaway. But although we did review one of her films last year.
Yeah,
I'm trying to remember the name of it.
I thought we did actually. I just forgot. I'll take a look and see what her filmography looks like, because I do remember something of hers. Oh, funny! She's apparently in the new Valley Girl that just came out on VOD.
What the
fuck? Nice.
Oh, she was.
That's what I say. Nice.
Oh, Killing of a Sacred Deer. That's what it was. Yeah.
Yes.
Wait, she was not in that.
Yeah, she was.
Yeah. She was.
With Nicole Kidman and the Colin Farrell?
Yeah, she was in it.
Yeah.
She was Martin's mother. The Martin was the one who kind of like infiltrated that family. Like she was his mother, and there was a couple awkward scenes of Colin Farrell's character with going over for dinner. Because he invited her, like the kid invited him over for dinner and stuff.
That's so funny because watching her in this, I kept thinking about Nicole Kidman in Killing of a Sacred Deer. Mostly the hand job scene. But
yeah, does a day go by where you don't think of that?
That and when she was laying in bed just like a fucking corpse. When I like that movie. It's not fun, but I enjoyed that film.
Oh, it was an amazing movie.
It's fucking great, right? I loved it.
So we do get Alicia Silverstone in this, and it's good to see her. She kind of like peaked a little bit. What was it, Batman and Robin, maybe? And then after that,
oh yeah,
I think after that, like she was in some stuff here and there, but she didn't see her pop up all that often. But she's kind of found this niche as a mom now, whereas before she was like the teen or the early 20s, but now she's showed up as a mom in a few films now. So good, good to see that she's sort of still getting some work. And the interesting thing is, you guys remember the movie The Crush, right? With, Carrie Elwes, and
yeah.
Well, anyways, it's kind of interesting that she played this role and not like the kind of other woman like that Riley Keough plays. I just thought that was kind of interesting.
And wasn't she also Lolita, or was that just the Crush was kind of the modern day take on Lolita, right?
Yeah.
So, there's this movie moves fast at parts. Like in the beginning here, we get Alicia Silverstone's character of what's her name, Laura. She is dropping the kids off at her ex's, kind of for their weekend, and then the ex-husband kind of asks her to come in, talks to her, and basically says that he's going to marry Grace, his new squeeze. And, she's clearly a little bit disturbed by this. And then promptly goes home, pulls out a gun, and shoots her head off.
Yeah, and it's done in a really abrupt way. It was done very matter-of-factly, very casually, very nonchalant about it. And it was from that impact, it just shocked the hell out of me. I did not see that coming at all.
Yeah.
You know, because, I mean, she's just sitting there having the wine. She's very casual about it. And then she just reaches into her fucking purse and there's no build up to it at all. There's no acting where we need to find ourselves building up sympathy for her because we know what she's about to do, or there's no music swelling or camera angles or anything like that to build that up. It just happens point blank, boom, and that actually shocked the hell out of me. I did not see it coming.
Yeah, it was definitely pretty like sudden, and you're right. There was no cues, no audio cues, no visual cues, just boom, you know. And this happens really early on. It's not really much of a spoiler because it's sort of in a sense what spawns some things happening, you know. So it's kind of an important point that we need to discuss. But yeah, it was very sudden and very odd. You know, and then obviously the kids are sort of mourning her death, and there's definitely a lot of kind of religious undertones in this. Nothing that's like super in your face. Well, I guess let me take that back. There kind of is, but it's not like a religious film. It's just this sort of idea of repentance and, you know, kind of owning up to some things that you've done, I guess, in a sense, with trying to be a little bit vague. And there's that scene when they all have the balloons and they're letting the balloons go, you know, after at the funeral. And I thought that was kind of like a heart dropping into your foot moment when the daughter's balloon wouldn't go up. And then she just like frustratingly like tears the string off of it, which had something attached to it, like a note or something is my guess. And then just lets it go. And
it was her doll.
Oh, it was her doll.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Yeah. So it's like, ooh, man, like, you know, like that was kind of a rough scene because, you know, obviously she wanted to, you know, kind of a nice gesture and she wasn't able to pull that off. So she kind of wasn't able to get this kind of closure, you know, and she was really kind of, you know, affected by it pretty greatly. So I thought that was kind of a big moment there. So
actually, can I say one thing?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
In the first 10 minutes of this film, you saw 5 lives remarkably changed by a series of events. You know what I mean? Like, and this is early on, but you have a couple that they're broken up. You know, they're fine. One person moved on, one didn't. It seemed like Alicia Silverstone had the full custody of the kids, but she's obviously having a hard time.
Yeah.
And, you know, with the husband who's kind of like, you know, IT, made for TV, Jared Butler kind of vibe going on. And he has the new wife, and the point where, oh, she's not here. And even when Alicia Silverstone sees her kind of like from the window. But everyone's lives change in that moment. You know?
Yeah.
And that was pretty fucking terrifying.
Yeah.
It's the first 10 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's a good point to bring up the impact of that you know, of that event and how so many lives change. Yeah. So this, and at times this film, I will say that at times this film is kind of slow moving. That's not necessarily a bad thing. And at other times things happen suddenly, and there's some stuff that's pretty brutal that happens in this, you know? So I think those are paced out fairly well in terms of like not giving you too much at one time to overwhelm, because a lot of some of the things that happen in this, if they were sort of stacked on top of each other a little bit more, might be a little bit too much to handle, you know? There is, I will say that it happens later on, but as you'll expect, Grace has a dog funny enough, named Grady. a little white dog, Raven Shadow.
Don't fucking get me going, Johnny.
Is Ollie right there next to you?
He is there next to me, but
comfort
he
him.
was.
Give him a hug. For those not watching video, Raven Shadow just gave Ollie a hug.
And I was like, "Oh, this cute little fucking guy." I'm like, "Oh shit."
Yeah.
Like it was like, "Oh god."
It wasn't the typical sort of what you'd expect from this kind of movie, but trigger warning. It doesn't really work out for Grady, I'll just say. But that was a pretty. Like it wasn't like a rough, like sudden thing. It was just like oh man, you kind of felt it coming, and you knew that they'd probably address it at some point. But yeah, there was definitely kind of a rough thing there.
Yeah. And he was upstairs when I was watching it, so he wasn't even down with me. So I was having more anxiety. It was fucking rough. I almost called Aries.
What the hell am I gonna do?
Yeah,
just fucking toss it down, bro. I'm like, Aries always upstairs. I saw the movie.
And so we did get after this, the kids find out about the dad wants to introduce them to Grace, his new girlfriend's soon to be wife, and talks about going to stay to their, like, I don't know if it was it their vacation home or a vacation home. I guess I didn't.
It was their vacation home.
It was theirs. Okay.
It was there.
It was, yeah. It's where they go every Christmas.
Okay, yeah. And the dad had to work, so he said, hey, you want to go hang out at the vacation home with Grace? You guys can get to know each other. And they're like, fuck no. Obviously, there's some resentment here because it's not their mom, and in a sense, she is responsible for the mother's suicide, right?
Yeah.
No, that's exactly right.
Yeah, and we don't
From
know.
a child perspective. From
Right.
a child perspective.
Exactly. And we don't know what happened. We don't know if they broke up, and then he saw her, if she was seeing her while they were together. We never got a sense of how that went down. We can only assume, that obviously, what's her Alicia Silverstone's character Laura obviously wasn't happy about it. Whatever it was, she was not cool with it. So you can kind of extrapolate from that.
No, it may have been there might have been some lines where maybe the husband kind of diversified first.
Yeah.
But the whole thing was, what was important was when they had that sit down was they were getting married in September.
Yeah.
And then after the events, the flash forward is now it's November. So think about how fucked up that is. So now you're from the new girlfriend's point of view, she's getting married in September. But the family she's marrying into had this horrible loss. That's not sexy. You can't have a marriage after that. And then we focus on November. But what the fuck? So you have the dad playing the role of the widower, because they made a point that they weren't, officially separate. They were separated, but they weren't divorced yet.
Yep.
So as he's trying to move on, he's still playing that role. And maybe the kids may have met her a couple of times, but all of a sudden now this girl is vilified in the children's eyes. Could the ex-wife could have had problems? Who knows what happened? But from what we get, there's a lot of emotionality, and it's fucked up. And now it's Christmas.
Right.
Bring on the
that's typically like what the holiday where families come together, right? Like,
right.
So
and Thanksgiving went.
Yeah. So we also have in this he plays a more of a kind of like a bit part because he's a focus of it, obviously because he's the father, but Richard is played by Richard Armitage, who we've seen in a bunch of stuff. He voices Trevor Belmont in the Castlevania Netflix series, but he also played, probably most notably, Thorin in the Hobbit films. And he was also Heinz Kruger in Captain America: First Avenger, Raven Shadow.
Wait, what?
Jesus Christ.
The dad in this movie was Heinz Kruger from the First Avenger.
Who's that?
He's a character in the First Avenger.
Well, no, I think I figured it out when you said he
you
was in
don't
the First
know
Avenger.
everything about. He was one of Hydra's top assassins.
Well, fine, Nazi number fucking 8. Fine.
Look it up. Pick up your
Top
little Google
assassin
box.
will not be Nazi number 8.
If he was Hans Gruber, that'd be a different fucking
Yeah,
picture.
yeah,
Fucking
exactly.
Nope.
Yeah, I don't
That's a
think he.
movie.
I think he was probably just created for the film. I don't think he was ever in the comics. So there you go.
Yeah. Some
But he's
douchebag.
a fucking Nazi. So Raven Shadow doesn't care.
I'm not a fan.
I know you're not.
Oh, for Christ's
I'm not a fan of their previous work, and I'm not looking forward to the new shit.
The new shit. So yeah. So we, he obviously now has the kids, and so there's this whole thing. They don't want to meet Grace. They're not looking forward to this, and then the kids go into Dad's office or whatever, go on his computer, and so Dad is an author, or he's written books. I don't know if that's his job, but he's written books, and one of the characters in his books is Grace, and they feel the kids think that it's based off of his current girlfriend, Grace, and they find videos of her and some information like newspaper clippings and stuff. She was basically the lone survivor of a cult. So they find some video of her as a kid and some newspaper clippings and stuff like that, and we get to see a little bit of video of that. And it seems like I like the way it was filmed. It was like a found footage kind of like first person perspective of her filming.
Mm-hmm.
So what did you think of that stuff, MZ?
I thought it was very effective. I thought they had the static lines, that added to the authenticity of the film, and also with the poor lighting. It looked like it was done with like one of those tiny mag lights that you would possibly attach to a camera, or just handheld in her other hand. Because it was kind of wobbly a little bit. So you saw what you needed to see, but you didn't see the whole thing.
Yeah.
And it lent itself a good amount of authenticity. I thought it was very well done.
Yeah, I liked it too. I thought it was pretty effective, and it gives you, because in a sense this is sort of a mystery, and we maybe not a mystery per se, but we don't know kind of what's happening here, like who the antagonist is supposed to be. That's one of the interesting things about this is it kind of shifts. Like you think that Grace is the bad guy, and then we get a sense that maybe the kids aren't quite, like on the up and up, and then maybe we're is this place haunted? Like there's a lot of different things going on, and I think that they played it really effectively in making it so that you don't know what's going on.
The flashback.
Yeah, they really straddled that line between, not only is it, there's a certain ambiguity about all these characters because you have no idea, who's good, who's bad. Maybe nobody's good, maybe nobody's bad. It all depends on what you take out of the film. The same thing goes for Richard. Stupid name, by the way. Same thing goes for Richard. It could be because he's not going to be winning any Dad of the Year awards. Because he leaves his kids with what's her name? Laura.
Grace.
No,
Grace.
not Laura. Grace. He has to go back into the city to take care of some more work. He leaves his kids with Grace, and a blizzard comes in, so he's not gonna. And given the situation that the kids are put in, and the situation that that Grace is put in, it's not gonna. not a very good mixture.
Yeah,
especially if you're not there to see what's going on.
Yeah, and to tiptoe around things, she has some sort of repressed things going on, like repressed memories or experiences that I don't feel that she fully dealt with, I guess is maybe the best way to sort of talk about it without giving too much away. And I don't want to give too much more away about what happens inside the house, because that's sort of where the meat of the movie is, where, you know, a lot of the stuff that happens between the kids and Grace. So I don't want to give too much away about that, and it's going to be hard to kind of tiptoe around it. But, you know, there's definitely an interesting dynamic at play there. The kids don't like her. They're completely, like, just don't want to like her. It's sort of what you would typically expect from, you know, like a situation like this with a step-parent stepping into a situation. Typically, the kids are really, you know, at least in cinema, are really resistant to the idea, especially because the mother killed herself, you know, in part because the father was remarrying, you know. So because of that, you know, in a sense, Grace, at least according to the kids, like you said, Raven Shadow, the kids believe Grace is responsible for this.
Right. I mean, it's all it's all about survivors. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the new girlfriend is a survivor of a weird, fucked up cult background, and that's one thing. When that was revealed, I'm like, oh, really? That's interesting. And it's so funny that you could look back and had that conversation maybe not happened on that day. You know, had he just let her drop the kids off.
Yeah.
You know, it all could have been different. It was one of those things where maybe that wasn't going to happen that day. And it all could have been different if they filed their paperwork and maybe the kids got to know the new girlfriend in different terms. But that was the Charles Durning point in their life where that was ground zero for all of these lives being broken. And there's a tremendous chemistry between the brother and sister. You know,
yes.
I'm not saying like Lannister, but at least Scarlet Witch and Pietro. You know what I mean? where the brother is the protector of the sister. Where they're there, and maybe that was an outgrowth of the relationship they had with their parents. It seemed like the mom was very religious, and dad maybe not so much. So maybe they didn't have the best childhood.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's very possible, yeah.
You know, we don't know what's going on, but everyone's emotions are right and wrong at the same time. And it was poor judgment to go to the lodge by the dad.
I don't know about the dad not being really all that into religion, because otherwise he wouldn't be researching and writing a book about cults. And it turns out that the woman he's dating or seeing or getting ready to marry was the lone survivor in the suicide pact from the cult that he's working on. So he might have an interest in religion. I don't know if he's overly religious or anywhere near religious, but he certainly has an interest in it.
You know, and it's a job, MZ, but I think that could have been a flaw in the marriage. I don't think he was religious at all. I think it was the opposite. I think her religion was part of their overall problems. I'm not blaming any one person because they're fucking fictional characters. But I think they were very different. Sons of
But I'm still trying. I mean, in the movie, I'm trying to figure out what it is about her that he is so attracted to. What is it that drives him to her so, for lack of a better term, voraciously? He's willing to give up the marriage that he had with Laura to Grace. This is beginning to sound like a soap opera. Through his research of him writing this book about the cults that she was a part of, and that she survived. Was that a reason for their divorce? It's never really mentioned. It's never really explained. But the end result is that he is going to marry this woman who was a former cult member, and she decided to she stepped in. They're getting the divorce, and that's why Laura blew her brains out. But even Grace, she seems to be the only one that has any real, like a moral ground. Like, she's trying her best to befriend the kids and try to make them feel at ease with her being around. Even though she's doing it maybe through some means that might be questionable, but obviously also in certain areas that could be understandable.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say,
no, go ahead.
It's interesting because this is, so the film, when they're in the vacation home, it's almost like to Grace, and I'm sure there's no accident that her name is Grace, but in it, it's that house is almost like a haunted house to her. Like, she is in that, she's almost like the protagonist because she's being antagonized by the kids because they don't like her and they're trying to kind of protect the legacy of their mother. And also she's kind of taunted by this religious iconography, which in a sense she has been trying to put behind her, right? Because of that religious cult. So like when you take it from her perspective, this is like a haunted house to her, and this is like almost like a haunted house movie to her, but we're not necessarily seeing it from her perspective. We're kind of seeing it from the kids. We're at least sympathizing with them. So it's interesting when framed that way because you don't really view it that way, but it definitely is to her like a haunted house, right?
I saw Grace as the face. She's coming into, right. Once again, she is a survivor of this, and she's being brought in. And it's remarkable poor judgment to put your new girlfriend, whatever you want to call her, in that role. Where, motherfucker, you haven't been there in how long? It's 6 months shy of that.
Well, she had also said she was okay with it. So in a sense, like, she was trying to face her demons in a sense. Not that I'm not saying that the kids were her demons, but in a way, she was trying to face all these things by going to the vacation house and then while there, she was forced to face her demons because the kids, already are super protective of their mom's legacy. So already they hate her, and also because she was, in a sense responsible for the mom's death, at least according, to the kids. So, she has a lot working against her here, and she's trying to make waves and just sort of like, reach out to the kids and get to know them. And it's just not working for her. It's just not working, which understandable,
Right. No one's perspective is wrong. Go ahead, MC.
I was just going to say, to jump back to an area that we were talking about before, you know what my favorite part of this movie was? The part that just kind of capped it off for me as to how the character development and how they interact with each other. My favorite scene was when they were watching The Thing.
Yeah. That was a great scene.
Because that just capped it all off for me, because it's all about who do you trust, who do you not trust, the perception of people as opposed to who they really are. It's very well done. It's a really great homage to throw that in there, and it just speaks volumes. I just love that part. That was fantastic.
Yeah. And what do you suppose the Jack Frost clip was about?
Well, pretty much the same thing. It's only done with a lighter tone.
And just also to add into this, Grace also has a reliance on pills. So my guess is that there's some sort of mental illness. Yeah, prescription for a mental illness, because she definitely wasn't right when the pills went missing. You know, she didn't feel comfortable, and she was kind of acting oddly, I guess you could say, right?
Well, as a survivor of significant childhood trauma, I mean, I think it's fair to say that there's a reason for that. Right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
No, that makes
sense. Absolutely. Sure.
She's not hoarding opioids, you know. I mean, whatever she was taking was needed. And she was fucking trying. She had fucking balls like fucking Masa Zero for going to that fucking house.
And the thing I liked about this is I didn't know where this was headed. Like, I couldn't tell who was the antagonist. Was Grace the antagonist? Were the kids the antagonist? Was there something else supernatural going on? It was very it wasn't clear, and I like that. And the performance by Riley Keough sold that really well, because you don't know what she's thinking, or in a couple scenes, like, she hides the pills behind her back, and then the fuck was that?
It was a chopper.
That was loud as shit.
Really?
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Sound like someone came in and started firing
the Autobahn.
Yeah, it sounded like someone fired an Uzi in your apartment. Jeez. All right. But yeah, I thought the performance was really well done, because I didn't know where it was headed, you know, and she played it very stoic, like very, like you weren't sure. And there was that scene where, like, she hid, like, the gun, and, like, there's a couple things where you're, like, a little suspicious of what's going on here, you know?
There were some twists and turns when you're like, once again, slow burn, once again, fucking horrible human tragedy is broken, and there's like, oh snap, maybe it's supernatural, maybe it's, and it this film kind of juked and jived in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
I mean, none of it was fun, but I was fucking on board. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't have fun watching it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't think you watch this and you're like, oh, that's a great fucking movie. Like, this is a fun movie.
Yeah.
You got as far as who the antagonist is, I don't think there really is any clear cut, because you got, on one end, you got the kids who are basically, how do I put this? Well, let's just say that they really don't like the situation that they're in at this point.
Yeah.
Then you got Grace, who is trying her best, but because of the actions of the kids, she's kind of reverting back to her old ways. And then you got the father, who is pretty much non-existent in all of this, which makes him totally irresponsible, regardless of what has to be done in his professional life.
Yeah.
So it's really difficult to decide who the antagonist is, who's the bad person, who's the good person. In my opinion, I think they all fall on a level field. To me, I don't think you can't choose. You can't choose. I think it's impossible. And it's with that direction of towing that fine line of making sure that all these characters land on that same level. That's a miraculous job of directing and of writing. That's fantastic. And you don't see that anywhere. Usually, if something comes across like this in this type of movie, this type of subject matter, one always seems to stick out over the other if you really decipher, when you really decipher the film, when you really look at it, you can pinpoint little things in which the director says, well, this one is a little bit more of an antagonist than the other one, so this one's more to blame. Here, it's just impossible. It's just impossible because they're both antagonists. They're all antagonists, and they're all the victims. So it's very difficult to decide where that lies, and I think that's just masterful directing.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with you that I think that it's a difficult balance to walk there. So, by the way, MZ, I lost your cam. Oh, you just came back, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'll try it. I'll try it again in a sec.
Okay.
I found a
thing because I've been picking my nose for the past 3 minutes.
Great. I put up a little technical difficulties sign in the meantime, so just so people don't have to see a black screen. But yeah, I think it was like you guys talked about, that scene with the Thing was very telling. I think that was kind of an interesting choice to use that, and I think the thing that really worked well is you, in a sense, are sympathetic with the kids. Although if you really think about it, you probably should be sympathetic with Grace's character because of the situation that she's going through. Like, that's a tough situation to be in,
I was, and that's where like the isolation came from, where she's fucking trying. And then I think we see some of the fault of Richard, who maybe he's holding so much on to, all right, we didn't get married. No, this would be great. We're doing it. And when fucking plans go awry, whether it's the suicide of your ex-wife or intergalactic, but a pandemic, fucking things up, you're holding on to, Christmas will be better than Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
But I think maybe some of that is maybe him too. Maybe that's his flaw in the marriage, where, all right, I have a new girl and I'll focus on my job. And there's things that he brought to the marriage that was not good.
Yep.
Where he maybe should have been more nurturing. Maybe should have fucking used his earned time. Or maybe should have, had at least a couple of good days with the kids and the new girlfriend before they get secluded and all fucking shining, tricked out in the winter. Come on, dog. It's fucking bro. And here's a question. They wouldn't let the daughter have a dog. Where'd the dog bed come from?
Well, I would imagine that she brought it, that Grace brought it, because she brought the dog, so.
No, he made a comment, dog bed's over there.
Yeah. I actually don't know. Maybe they had a dog. Yeah, probably not though, I guess. Or maybe he got it for her. I don't know.
See, Richard was kind of a dick.
Hey, MZ, if you can, turn your camera off and then on again. I have you on Skype, but I can't get you on the feed. So just give it a shot. Just turn it off and then turn it back on again. That always works, right? IT special. Turn it off, turn it on again.
Yeah.
Rinse around,
rinse it up. I did it.
All right, there you go. Got you back. Okay,
nothing?
Perfect. Got you back.
Oh, good.
All right.
Well, now he's on top of Aries.
What's that?
Now MZ's on top of Aries with my camera.
Don't worry about that. It has nothing to do with what actually goes out on the live feed. All right?
Sorry. I'm sorry.
Oh, hey, Eric. How you doing?
Raven Shadow, I want you to pay close attention. Are you looking?
Yep.
There you go.
I don't like that.
What?
There was one scene in this. I don't want to talk too much about it, but somebody was hanging, I guess I'll say. And I thought that was kind of a cool scene, looking up the stairs. I thought that was well done. Well,
that goes back to, actually the whole thing really, but in my mind, that specific scene goes right back to the Dollhouse.
Yeah, no, it does. Definitely, yeah.
Which when you look at the Dollhouse, and you'll see that it's very, very well laid out, as though as if it was planned, and that's very, very wise of these kids. It's very bizarre. It's kind of spooky in a way where kids would think, at this age, would think that dark.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's extremely effective for the viewer, for us, and it works out so well. And it just almost brings everything together between the lodge and the Dollhouse.
Yeah.
And because the two really act as one in a way.
Yep. Yeah, I could see that. And there's so many nice little touches that I can't really talk about. But as things progress in the lodge, like some of the nice touches are like, just like some of the tertiary things that are going on in there, like the details. That's what I'll say is the details. I think they did a good job of selling what they were trying to do, So I thought that was pretty well done. And the one thing I'll say is there's a lot of trauma in this as well. Like what these kids endure with their mother, committing suicide and some of the other stuff that they end up enduring is pretty crazy, a lot for kids to endure, almost to the point of being like almost exploitive, like I wouldn't call it exploitation, but it's almost like, ooh, like a lot happens,
Yeah.
And we're getting dangerously close to giving some stuff away. So I don't know if I want to go too much further than that. But do you guys have any other thoughts about this film that you would like to bring up before we head to a verdict?
No, I'm ready.
I do, but we can't.
Yeah. That's kind of why I'm as we're getting like towards the end here, it's kind of difficult to go too much further because this is one of those ones that you just want to let it kind of like breathe and get a feel for the movie and like have your own thoughts about what you think is going on. It's not one of those movies that at the end you're like, what happened? Like there's not like it's kind of clear where it goes, but you don't know until the end, right? So that's kind of why like the journey is part of the experience, and to give too much of that away, I think would be, kind of like taking that from people, when I think that's part of the experience of this is to just watch it, and see what happens. So, all right, well, let's head to the verdict.
Trick or treat, baby.
I wonder if people would say you're a trick or a treat.
Trick or treat, motherfucker.
All right, it is verdict time. We'll let you know whether this flick is a trick or a treat, and any final thoughts we may have. Let us start with Raven Shadow.
A few weeks back, I was complaining about fucking seeing the same fucking type of movie. You know what I mean? Like, oh, what's another fucking goat, women in fucking, lederhosen movie or whatever the fuck, period piece. But the last 3 weeks, seeing stuff like Why Don't You Just Die? Fucking
Deerskin.
Yeah. And, now this.
And Butt Boy.
You can't say they're Butt Boy, fair. Not the norm, right? And this flick, wow, man, it was different. It juked and it jived, and every kind of like fake left, go right, I was like, oh shit, this is what it's about. Then I'm like, oh Snoop, this is what it's about. Oh shit, this is what it's about. That's what I was doing watching this movie. You know what I'm saying?
What is it about?
I don't fucking know. I do know, but I can't tell you. I want you to watch it. I'll tell you guys after the show.
It's all about the hokey pokey.
Yeah, turn yourself around, man. Figure things out. But no, I think if you're into whatever we discussed, don't watch a fucking trailer. Don't even read the synopsis. I'm not sure how you're gonna get it, but just hit play. And I think it was good because it's still fucking cold in New England, and I'm isolated. They're isolated. It was not fun. It's not fun. But I was engrossed. Is that a word, Johnny?
Yeah, it's a word.
Did I use it right?
Yes.
Thank
You are gross. No, it's...
Come on. But no, I was into it, man. I was into it. There's a lot of things that be like, oh, it's like this meets that meets this, but it would give it away. What?
This meets this meets that meets that.
Yeah. That's what I'm like, oh shit. It's kind of like, but it would give it away. And I didn't see it. I don't want to spoil it for him. But I would say this was a it's a treat, man. Treat.
All right. Took us a while to get there, but we got there. Let's find out what Aries, what do you think?
You guys made some good points about this movie. The pacing of it, it was up and down. It was fast when it needed to be. It was slow when it needed to be. The story had a good concept. I liked the concept behind it from start to finish. My major problem with this, and I seem to be alone in this, there was zero character development. I think it seems like you guys, I don't recognized it, but don't have a problem with it because you just were speculating throughout the whole thing. Well, maybe it was this, maybe it was that, maybe it was that. With character development, a lot of the speculation, it shouldn't have been there. Like there was far too much question between character motivation, which should have been in the character development. There was enough of this movie where a majority of these characters should have been hashed out, and there was zero character development in any of these characters, and that is my major problem with this movie. But that aside, like I said, this is a good story. There were some questions that I would have liked answered. I don't want to speak on it. I guess it add to the mystique of it that it was just kind of some things were introduced and then never addressed again. It left me curious, but all in all, this movie kind of is a treat. But like I said, it's not the best movie.
All right. So for me, I think this was a treat. I did enjoy this. I liked the journey of the film, and you know, it's a. I guess I'll say it's a difficult film to recommend because it is kind of like at times it's tough. Like there's a couple tough bits in this, in terms of like what happens to people and what happens to kids and kind of what they go through. So it's not an easy watch in that sense, but I think it's a well-made film, and I think it is interesting, and I think I would like to see this again eventually and kind of take it from the perspective of Grace, of her looking at this as like a situation that's, it's kind of a scary situation for her, like I would imagine if you're in a relationship and you with someone you love that you want to marry, that you want to get in with their kids, and if you don't, how's that going to work, right? How are you going to be in a relationship with somebody if their kids don't like you, So I imagine that's a scary situation, and for her to have sort of these, the things that happened in her past with the cult, like that's something that she never fully seemed to get over or to deal with. So that's also something. So yeah, I mean, it's interesting to be able to look at it from her perspective and her point of view. And I think that this is a well-made film. It's a well-written film. I think it looked real nice, and I just think it's effective, and it's effective horror story. And I think for us, being in isolation, I think this is one that a lot of people could probably relate to now, because we are kind of stuck with the people that we live with, whether it's our family or roommates or whatever. We're stuck in this situation, and we have to deal with things that we might not want to, or we might be faced with things that we didn't want to deal with, but now we are, or whatever, so I think it's very relevant for the time. So I would say check it out. It's, like I said, it is available on Hulu. If you have Hulu, you can check it out and give it a look. So The Lodge, and I would say that Riley Keough's performance was pretty standout for me, because I think she sold this role really well, where it was difficult to know where she was kind of coming from, and I think that she did a good job of selling that. So kudos to her on that performance. And yeah, there you go. So we all generally liked The Lodge. So you guys can check it out on Hulu or on video on demand. So give it a look.
Well, wait a second. I don't know if I liked it yet.
Oh, did I skip you?
Yeah, you did.
Oh. I think it's
moving on.
I think shit. I'm sorry, MZ. I think it's the first time I've skipped someone that isn't a guest.
Well, I figured you were. I figured you were just saving me for last, and it's like, oh wait.
Well, I am now. So I think you spoke pretty highly of the film, so I think I just was assuming. So let's make it official, though.
It's a trick.
I hated it.
See, I got you there. All right. Yeah, this was a really well-made movie. I'm talking really well-made movie. Very well written, very well directed. One of the things that we didn't talk about was the fact that we didn't get this. We got Richard interacting with Grace several times before we even got to see her. Yeah. And I thought that was pretty interesting. They had her behind frosted glass twice over. You get to see the back of her head. But you never see her face. And you didn't get to see her face till like maybe 20 minutes into the movie, and it was really bizarre. So when you finally did get to see her face, and you realize, oh, she seems relatively normal, and for some reason that really had a big impact on me, the way they were teasing with the possibility of what she might look like. After saying that, I think that there's a lot of really clever spots in this. It's an emotionally draining film at times, and it's definitely more of a psychological thriller than a full-blown horror film. The more, when you get into the nuts and bolts of the film, you realize that so well, in fact, that I didn't even really notice the score, so I can't speak on the score. But everything else just looked fantastic. It looked really great. The performances were great from everybody. Just a really all around standout film. I really liked this one. I had to give it some thought at first because I wasn't too sure about the ending, and then I realized the more I thought about it, the more it gave me douche chills. So yeah, this is a very, very, very high-end treat for me. I enjoyed this quite a bit.
All right. Awesome. There you have it. It is official now, so all treats.
I'm sorry, what kind of chills did you get?
Goose chills, he said.
Goose. I thought you said douche.
I did.
It's a douche.
Oh, I thought you said goose chills. I was like, okay, maybe he's thinking goosebumps.
Oh. What are goose chills?
All right.
I heard
what a goose chills. Goose chill.
You're the king of the mixed metaphor, so I thought maybe it was something you just made up. No, all right. Douche chills is what he said. So there you go.
He actually did say douche chills. Okay.
Now, I'm not sure what that means, but I know it's a word. It's a phrase, right? It's a phrase.
Yes, it is a phrase.
It's a phrase because he said it.
Yeah.
It wasn't a phrase before he said it.
Oh, it's been used on this show before. Douche chills.
Has it?
Yeah, Mars used to
douche
use
chills.
It.
Oh.
Yeah, Mars.
Well, Stern talked about that years ago. Yeah, that was a Stern thing.
Well, I don't know if Stern made it up, but maybe he used it.
No, I don't know.
Heard it.
So, douche chills. There you go. All right. So, that is our discussion of. We're going to end on that note. That's our discussion of The Lodge. If you guys want to check it out, like I said, it is available on Hulu or video on demand. Now, next week, we are going to do. Oh, one other thing I wanted to mention, actually, I just pulled up his IMDb, but the kid who played Aiden, Jaden Martell, you might recognize him from the It films. He was in the It from 2017. He played Bill, who was in the Chapter 2 was played by James McAvoy. So if you don't remember which one he is, he's the one who James McAvoy played as the older version.
He was good. The kid was good.
Yeah, no, he was. He was real good.
Say this, the last couple of years, we've seen some fucking damn fine fucking child actors.
Yeah.
In pictures.
Yeah, I'd say that. I do agree with that for sure. I think we've seen some good ones. But next week, I don't think there's any children in this, hopefully. But it's a movie called Porno. It is
Yay!
put out by Fangoria. And the synopsis, when 5 teen employees at the local movie theater in a small Christian town discover a mysterious old film hidden in its basement, they unleash an alluring succubus who gives them a sex education written in blood.
Well, we had a good run of 3 weeks.
Well, it could continue.
Yeah, I know.
Don't let porno scare you, Raven Shadow.
I'm not afraid.
So, yes. So we will be checking this out next week. And is the latest film from Fangoria called Porno. It's available on VOD now. And I think it might be playing in some select theaters. So if you guys heard us talk with Professor J about that sort of virtual screening thing, you may be able to view it through your local independent theater if you want to help support them. So give that a look first if you're interested in checking it out. Otherwise, it is on VOD. So you can check it out and play along at home. If you guys want to give us your thoughts on the film, send us a voice message or an email to podcast@trickortreatradio.com and let us know. We'll play it on the air. All right, well, that is going to wrap up the film discussion. We do have a couple voice messages, and then we'll kind of wrap things up here. So I also want to give a shout-out to El Goro for giving us those awesome questions. I didn't get to ask all of his questions, but was able to ask a couple good ones there that he had for Grady Hendrix. So appreciate our buddy El Goro sending in some messages, and appreciate him taking the time to write out those great questions. So I think Aries, I think you should send the make and model of headset to MZ.
Why?
Hear everything going on. Hear fucking motorcycles driving. Hear you yawning. Yeah, exactly. All right, so let's check in. Let's check in with some of our friends. So we're gonna kick things off with our good buddy Arkham Josh. Let's see what he has to say this week.
Hey, Trick or Treat Radio guys, it's Arkham Josh calling in, talking about this week's film, The Lodge. Had been wanting to see this one, quite enjoyed it. Thought it was a really good, suspenseful film. Had a really good setting. I like especially the exterior photography. I thought the cast was good. The story was good. If anything, I feel this, and this might be like a really weird complaint, is but like the promotion really like harped on the previous film of these filmmakers. So I got about a third of the way into the movie, and because I was so familiar with the other film, I figured out the exact direction that this was going in. So I mean, it's not really a fault of the film, more just a fault of me having a little too much information going into it, I guess, which is kind of a weird complaint. But I did quite enjoy it, so I'm going to give this a treat and a recommend. And I don't know, look forward to hearing what you guys thought. And I don't know about Massachusetts, but I know Rhode Island is starting to loosen restrictions a little bit. So hopefully maybe in another 2 or 3 weeks I'll be able to head on up there, you know? So, hey, I hope you guys are doing good, and have a good one. Bye.
All right, Josh. Thanks, buddy. Always great to hear from you. Glad you dug the flick. And I guess, in a sense, maybe he's right. I didn't think about the Goodnight Mommy connection, so, you know, I guess it's a bit of a spoiler, maybe, but I didn't really think of it when I was watching it. So,
well, I think if you remember how Goodnight Mommy went, you could definitely see parallels between the two.
Yeah, we'll leave it at that. I don't want to say too much more in case people have seen Goodnight Mommy first. The one thing so I understand a lot of states are loosening restrictions now. This is just me. I'm going to get on a soapbox for a second. Just because your state loosens restrictions doesn't mean you need to get out in the world if you don't feel safe doing it. I mean, obviously, some people might have to go to work. That's a different story. I'm not telling you to fucking call into work. Johnny Wolfenstein told me to. But, you know, just because the state's opening up doesn't mean you have to follow suit. Just do what you feel is comfortable to you. You know, I mean, I know here in Maryland they are softening restrictions starting tomorrow, and some counties are not following suit because they don't feel it's a good idea. So not the entire state. So obviously things are not great in Massachusetts. I think Massachusetts has the third highest amount of cases right now. So
number 3.
Number 3, yeah. Raven Shadow, you want to be number 1?
Go Brady.
So I'm just saying, you know, like, take it easy. Let's, you know, don't jump out there. Everything's not fine, as some government officials might make you feel like. So use your caution.
No,
if you don't feel comfortable, don't go out.
Yeah, send your mom instead.
Send Raven Shadow's mom instead.
She's a fucking badass chick, dog. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, Raven Shadow, have you been out of your house recently? Because it hasn't been cold in New England. It was almost 80 degrees today.
It's been cold. There was snow on Saturday. And I'm skinny.
Yeah, and it's Thursday now. We've had a number of days where it's been 70 plus degrees.
Yeah.
But to echo,
and the snow didn't accumulate at all.
It's still been cold.
Oh yeah.
Raven Shadow needs to bundle up. He's wearing his long underwear.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know.
No, I understand.
He's more slim than cardboard, so I can understand why. But for Christ's sake, dude,
Does that mean
get out?
Does that mean coronavirus stays active for 24 hours on him too?
I guess that's
Probably.
So much stuff. They got fucking killed, man. Like, there's so much. Good luck, coronavirus. There's so much fucking shit inside.
Well, the coronavirus can't get a hold of his lungs. All the tar lives there.
I'm like Armadillo from Marvel. I have like armor, natural armor. But no, I mean, I want to get a haircut. I got some split ends I want to get taken care of.
You want to get some fucking split ends taken care of.
I want to. I'm not going to, because you don't do that.
You know what? I can solve two problems with one. Here, you want company and you want a haircut. I'll come over with my clippers. I'll give you my haircut.
I want to see you, but I don't want you to do that. I'd rather you help me with my stairs.
I'll give you a nice haircut. Nice little buzz.
No, but I want to go to dinner, but I don't want to go to fucking whack dinner with mannequins in the back. You seeing that shit? There's some fucking joints who have like, they're gonna fill the and I hate this fucking term. What's the distancing? The fucking distance.
Social distancing.
Yeah.
Social distancing.
So you're gonna open up restaurants, and some joints are actually having mannequins populate the tables, because that's not fucking weird. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, we're not ready yet, gang. We're not ready. I want my friends to come over. And I want to see my parents. That's all I want to do. I don't want to go to fucking the club. I don't want to go to fucking whatever the fuck. I ain't getting a fucking haircut. Slow it down. We ain't done yet.
Yeah. So just saying, and I'm not, that's not pointed specifically at Josh, but Just because they lift restrictions doesn't mean it's you have to go out. If you don't feel comfortable, don't do it, because
Josh, come over.
All you
He's
have
fine.
is without your health, obviously you're nothing. Right, Raven Shadow?
Yeah.
Well, fuck. Josh, just come over. What are you doing tomorrow?
Oh, shit.
That's fine. They got coffee milk.
Oh, well, let me catch up on the chat room. Evil Corny said, I'm glad MZ didn't get in trouble for laughing this episode.
Yeah, I was waiting for it. Because I was starting to laugh a little bit too hard. And my eyeballs started heading towards that door, and I'm like, oh, shit, here it comes. But no, never happened.
Do you guys like this setup, or are you excited to get back to the studio?
Studio.
I actually don't mind this because I can just walk upstairs and go to bed. This is great for me.
Come over, dude.
And you know what? I can drink as much as I want because I don't even have to worry about getting in a vehicle.
That's true. Because you have to drive MZ's ass home.
Yeah.
Why would he stay over when he can stay in his own bed?
I have a king size.
In your bed?
Yeah.
You're going to give me your bed, or you're going to sleep with him?
No, you sleep. We'll sleep in opposite direction. So it's like you sleep at the foot, I'll sleep at the head.
Look, I don't like cuddling with a skeleton.
Have you tried?
Or cardboard.
Chest hair bumping.
Yeah.
Listen, there's a handful of people. There's one person that likes to do that.
I know. Evil Corny says Raven Shadow being stalked by Bobby Drake over there.
Seriously, right? It's fucking cold, Corny.
And then he also says MZ living in fear, looking at the door. Oh, shit. All right, so we got one more voice message. Let's check out what our boy First Time Mike has to say this week.
What's up, Trick or Treat family? This is First Time Mike. Hope everybody is doing well this time of the virus. As, of course, there's all sorts of craziness going on in Wisconsin once again, because with various lawsuits and Supreme Courts, some quarantines are off. Some people are going nuts. Some people are staying inside. I'm just going to keep on going on as if, I'd love to go to different stores and go around the bookstore and the comic shops, but I'm trying to keep safe. I live above my folks, so I want to keep everything safe for them, and I work in grocery stores where people are crazy. So I'm just keeping, pretty much staying under the radar, going out where I need to go, and when I'm out wearing masks such as that, just being careful. Hope everybody, be careful, because at the end of all this, I want to know everybody is safe and sound and doing well. Just a little bit of my viewing. Just wanted to recommend something that's free on YouTube right now. When I'm watching like horror or mystery shows, I stumbled onto the Toei Tokusatsu World official channel. It's a YouTube channel dedicated to a lot of the Toei live action science fiction. They have some anime too. But it's stuff like, if you love like stuff like the Super Sentai shows, the Space Cop shows, some of the weird Japanese kid robot shows, they got a ton of those, like new episodes every week. It's been fun viewing. Do not make the mistake of falling asleep during that once, because I started watching a couple episodes of one of the Space Cop shows, and I dozed off, and I wake up to some googly-eyed Japanese, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on there? So just be careful with that. Also, I did get the chance to check out VFW. Great movie. And I have a theory, and nothing, I can't point out to anything definite in the movies, but I theorize that VFW takes place in the same universe that The Mind's Eye, also by Joe Begos, is in. So again, VFW, The Mind's Eye, in the same universe. Boom. New movie series by Joe Begos. That would be awesome. This is First Time Mike saying, everybody be careful, take care of yourselves, and good night. Bye.
All right, first time, Mike. Awesome, man. Glad you dug those films. Oh, I was gonna. Raven J just sent us a drawing. I accidentally went to it too fast, but okay. So here we go. There's the Raven J. It's MZ's entitled Goose Pimples.
It's fucking weird. It's like Medusa, but odd.
Yeah. Do you see it, MZ, yet?
No, not yet.
All right,
not yet.
It'll come through the feed in a second.
Yeah. I can only imagine. You know, Raven J is really intelligent when it comes to these sort of things.
You see it now?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, there you go. MZ with geese coming out of his back and a tail
coming out of my ass.
Yeah, it looks like it's stuck in your ass.
Look how fat he made. What the hell is that all about?
Maybe you gotta check yourself, bro.
MZ, I got news for you.
Yeah. Maybe you gotta check yourself, bro.
Stop walking like you've been.
Yeah, right.
All right. Well,
I hear you.
Thanks, first time, Mike. We appreciate you calling in, buddy. Glad you dug VFW. And an interesting point. I hadn't even thought about that. That Mind's Eye could take place in the same universe as VFW. It would be cool if you had like a shared universe for all of his films, and we just didn't even realize. Could be cool.
Very Tarantino-esque of him.
Well, that is it for voice messages. I'm just seeing if I think that's it. Let me check the chat rooms real quick, and then we'll kind of wind things down here. So, yep. So, one thing I wanted to say, we're also broadcasting on Twitch now. I started, I think, last week or the week before. I don't remember. So, I mean, obviously, most people view it on trickortreatradio.com. Some people also view it on Facebook, but we're also doing Twitch, and we may do some stuff exclusive to Twitch. We're going to try to work out some watch parties and stuff like that. I don't know if we can get that all going, but I do know that you can stream stuff from Amazon Prime on Twitch and do like a live watch party. So that's something that I'm at least looking into. So if anyone wants to follow us on Twitch, if you guys want to be notified of any of that, we're on twitch.tv/trickortreatradio. So go ahead and find us there. And if you ever want to watch any of the live shows, you want to watch the video feed, they're all they're going to be archived there from now on as well. So they'll be there. They'll be on YouTube. They'll be on the website. So just give you some options. So I would like to get some additional followers on Twitch. So if you guys are on Twitch, go ahead and go to twitch.tv/trickortreatradio and toss us a like. And we may be doing some additional stuff on there here and there. More information, as it becomes available. But just another platform for us to do some different stuff. So give it a look. And I think that's it. You guys have anything else you wanted to add before we wrap things up here?
Nope.
No? All right. Well, I think that's going to do it. So
I'm good.
We let's go around the room and everyone say our goodbyes, starting with MZ.
Arrivederci, goose bags.
Goose bags. All right, Aries.
Goodbye.
Raven Shadow.
Live fast, love hard, die with your mask on.
No!
Enough with the dying with the mask on.
What's wrong with you?
It's the fucking sign off. It's from the fucking Brad Pack. It's what they say. It's what I
Jesus
say.
Christ, live in the now, will you?
I do want I want Zion.
Did you not hear MZ modify his sign off for tonight? You can modify yours for the quarantine here.
Yeah.
Live fast, love hard, don't die with your mask on.
There you go. Thank you.
Oh, there you go.
You happy?
Congratulations. Very much.
Jesus. All right. Well, we appreciate Grady Hendrix giving us a bunch of his time.
Yeah.
It was really awesome catching up with him. Raven Shadow learned a lot about vampire penis today. So
many Draculas.
so many Draculas that throw poop and pee.
That's fucking. Really fucking Dracula? Like, there's some. They bite your chest. There was some he was talking about. They bite your feet. There was some, and it's a metaphor for like plagues. So what new monsters are gonna come out of this fucking stuff? Aries is shaking his beard. Actually, it's funny. Check it out, Aries, because there's some fucking Draculas that will grab people by their beards and make them pull them in the streets.
Yeah, I heard that. And if you paid attention, everyone in the fucking world is a vampire, according to the list he listed at the beginning.
Yeah.
Well, you were so vocal. I didn't know you knew that.
All right. Well, big thanks to Grady Hendricks. Everyone go check out his latest book, The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. I got it right for once. And then also check out his new podcast. It is super scary. Holy shit. Now I forgot that one. Super scary haunted homeschool. That's it. So go check that out. As Raven Shadow mentioned, he learned a lot about Draculas today. So you can too. You can learn about Draculas as well. So check that out. And we appreciate Grady taking the time. And we'll catch up with him next year. You can get to hear Grady next year. Well, you can hear him on this podcast in the meantime. So thanks to Grady. Thanks to everyone who sent us some voice messages. Thanks to everyone who tuned in for the live show. We appreciate you guys. And also for everyone who will check out the podcast when it hits all the podcast feeds. So, yes, and as I said earlier, I'm just going to reiterate, just because your states are lifting, the stay-at-home orders, just be comfortable. Be safe. If you don't have to go out, don't. If you don't feel comfortable doing it, there's lots of places delivering. I've been getting my groceries delivered. I literally left. I drove my car for the first time in like almost 2 months this past weekend. I went for
you go, that a boy.
Went for a drive. So it took Ozzy for a ride, and went out for like a half hour, 40 minutes, and there was tons of people out, just walking around, no masks on, not giving a fuck. Just be safe out there.
They're everywhere.
I know, it's ridiculous. So just be safe, everyone.
Yeah.
And come back next week because we want you here to be listening to the show. And also, I didn't mention it earlier because we had kind of an abbreviated intro. Patreon.com/trickortreatradio if you want to help support the show. Go check that out. Also, Amazon.com. I gave the website a little refresher today. If you guys want to, not much, just added the different style logo, and also added a new picture to the about the Trick or Treat Radio about us. I added a picture because we had an old picture on there, so I added a new one. So if you want, go ahead and kind of give that a look. You can kind of see some of the updates. If you want to, just go to trickortreatradio.com, look around. All right, that's it. We out. That's going to do it for the show. So we appreciate you guys tuning in to episode 407 of Trick or Treat Radio. And I played the intro. What a fucking idiot I am.
We're going to start this all over again?
Let's do it again. All right, that's it. That's the show. We'll see you guys next week.